Well, we're on. Hey, no intro. What happened to the intro?
Jay Crawford, Adam the Bull, Garrett Bush, Dustin Fox, Jason Lloyd, Tyvis Powell, plus, ba-da-da-da-da, you're loving him, Mikey McNuggets. And so many big names, it would take me hours to say all of their names. The ultimate Cleveland sports show starts now. Booyah!
Well, it's the second time you see this now in the last 30 seconds. Director Steve punched this stuff right out of the gate. Dustin, you were
I was in the
not
bathroom.
here, but he made it back. He would have been on time if Steve had
did.
played the actual intro theme first, so I can't blame you for being a few seconds late.
Well, I'm here.
What
What's
a
up,
pro.
guys?
What a pro.
How we doing?
Hi.
It's Wednesday.
What's up, Jason?
Hi. I just walked in.
I know.
Little-
You were off Monday?
I was off Monday.
Bull.
No,
and
Bull was in.
Yeah,
Bull filled in for you?
They switched.
You guys
yes.
swapped. Okay.
Bull swap. Bull needed a swap, I guess. I don't know.
Okay.
So.
Something secretive?
I don't know. You never know with
Usually
him what's going on.
secretive,
Yeah.
By the way, I went to Adam the Bull's house for the first time.
The newly
In
renovated.
15 years, or how many years have you known?
So I've known Adam since 2011
All right, close to 15 years.
and probably spent more time with him than anybody in my entire life. And
Never
for
been to
the
his
first
house.
time ever since 2011, I entered his house last week.
What was the occasion?
He had to sign the marriage license. So I had to go over to the house and get
He's
get
got a
him
nice
signed.
house. I haven't seen
His
it
house
since,
is great.
Haven't seen it since the renovations, but I spent a few Sundays
I've
over
been
there.
in his driveway before, but never inside.
Wow.
Was that a COVID stop in
No.
the driveway? Or
No, and it became a running joke on our show where, like, you know, he'd been to my house, I've invited him to my brother's house, we'd done all these things, and
Yeah.
he'd never invited me to his house, which he actually had, but it was funnier when I said that he had not. But yeah, I was in his house. Surprisingly, not surprisingly, because Liz is a very, you know, with it to do person. You know what I mean? She's very organized.
Yeah.
Adam's pretty organized too, but you know, Adam's kind of how do you say? Sometimes disheveled.
Yeah, that's fair.
That's fair. Yeah.
Sometimes,
That's fair.
you know, in a nice way. But his house is beautiful,
I'm sure that's.
and the new
98%
renovations are awesome.
Oh, I mean, they had to move out for the renovations, so I'm sure.
Oh
it
yeah,
was-
I mean the entire first floor. I mean it's a ranch, but I mean its first floor is awesome.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's cool. Well, I'm going to go over and see it now.
You should.
Dustin, what ring is that?
This one,
Yeah.
the Natty.
Nice.
How often you wear that?
I've been wearing it more.
Have you?
Well, now I got a wedding band, so I got all this jewelry.
All this bling?
So I'm like, you know what? I'll wear the Natty ring because, you know, I have a teammate of mine who's like wearing it.
Dustin, show it to the camera.
Oh, sorry, my bad. Where we at? There we go.
Yeah, it's nice.
There you go.
You got a teammate that what now?
Was wearing his ring, and I never really wore my ring. Now, like my uncles all played for Ohio State, and they like my uncle Tim never takes his like Rose Bowl championship ring off. 75.
I thought your whole family went to Penn State.
No, Ohio State.
I thought your
Only my
family-
brother went to Penn State.
Oh, okay. I had that backwards.
But anyway, one of my teammates is like, well, if not now, when? Like, when are you going to wear it? I'm like, you know what? Start wearing it more often.
Yeah.
You know, maybe I'll get a couple free burgers.
It's a power move. I mean, it stands out.
I mean, people
got-
are
got
like,
your name on
you're
it?
like, what is that ring?
I'm not gonna lie. I saw Fox on the side, and I was like, that game was on Fox. Why would they put the TV broadcast? And then I remembered, obviously, your last name is Fox.
It is.
A little brain fart.
And he works for ESPN, not
Yeah.
Fox.
Well, when I saw it, it didn't make sense. Speaking of stories, Jason, I told a story on the Ultimate Cavs show this morning. If you want some more Cavs coverage, Jason, I did a quick little Ultimate Cavs stream this morning, and I forgot to tell the ending. So could I tell the ending real quick?
I don't
Because
remember the story.
It embarrasses myself.
I'm so disheveled.
Yeah,
Myself.
Stealing my word.
I
Yeah.
want to hear. I don't know if it's.
Yeah,
TV
no, we'll talk
appropriate.
later.
But we were talking about whether or not Darius could become a passable defender in the NBA, and I talked about when I was
Oh, yeah.
entering my sophomore year of high school. I went to Jim Calhoun Elite Camp up at UConn campus, and I won Defensive Player of the Week. Wasn't very good on-ball defender, but talked a lot. Was a really good help defender. So at the end of camp ceremony, like they call you up, you get your little plaque or whatever. Jim Calhoun's there, and Jim was like, defensive player? And my brother texted me, he goes, why don't you tell the end of the story? And I remember why I'd never tell the end of the story. But I'm going to do it now because why not? Jim Calhoun gives me the plaque and goes, you're a pretty good defender. You want to try guarding one of our recruits? He's like, yeah. It was Shabazz Napier. So I played Shabazz Napier 1-on-1 to 5.
And you were a sophomore in high school.
I was entering my sophomore year in high school. He was entering his first freshman year at Connecticut.
Jeez.
In front of Jim Calhoun, in front of all the coaches, in front of my parents and my brother, all the parents were there to pick up the kids. This was the end of the camp. Yeah, Shabazz Napier played in the NBA.
And you did not.
I did not. You want to talk about getting torched? Torched. I got roasted. I got crossed over. I got stepped back. Any move you could have thought, it happened. And it kind of humbles. You go from, I just won Defensive Player of the Week. I feel awesome. I don't know if I ever play basketball again. Like, I don't know if I can show my face in the state of Connecticut. So,
How was that camp? I mean, was Calhoun involved? Was he on hands on?
No, he was there to welcome the campers.
Okay.
Then all the assistants, all the players on the team, they ran stations and stuff. And then he was there at the very end to hand out the championship trophy and the individual awards.
I went to, in 8th grade, I went to Bobby Knight's camp at Indiana in Bloomington. It was like you stay on campus, you do the same thing, stay in the dorms and all that whole thing, whatever. And he was very involved, very involved. And my camp counselor was Neil Reed.
Oh, for real?
R.I.P.
wow.
R.I.P.
Yeah.
That's crazy.
Yeah, who passed away and was the one who got choked by Bobby Knight.
Yeah.
The only camp I ever went to where the head of the camp was there the whole time was Bobby Hurley, he's the father, legendary coach at St. Anthony's, and he had the best. Do you ever have a coach? Either of you have a coach tell you something that sticks with you for the rest of your life?
Oh yeah.
Oh sure.
Like one line in particular that just sticks with you.
Yeah, I mean, Jack Rose, my high school football coach, always used to say, when we were going out to practice, he's like, put a little money in the bank. You don't know when you're going to need a withdrawal.
Ooh.
He used to always say that.
I don't know if it tops it, but
Good.
Bobby Hurley or Bob or whatever it was, I don't know if he allows me to call him Bobby Hurley. So,
well, I'm going to allow you to call him Bobby Hurley.
He said he hated little guards driving baseline. Hated it. And he said, driving baseline's like walking through the hood without a gun at night. So someone asked, what's a gun in basketball? And he goes, LeBron's ability to dunk. It ain't none of y'all got a gun. So ain't none of y'all driving baseline. And to this day, I'm terrified to drive baseline. I just refuse. I don't do it. It's not part of my game. And I'll never forget, he was 70 years old at the time, looking at a bunch of freshmen in high school being like, you're not driving baseline. And I'm a Hall of Fame coach that's won the NJ State title 11 times. You're going to listen to me. And I did.
That's a good one. I've got tennis coaches now that have things stuck in my head that I hear.
Yeah.
And we have a legendary coach down in Summit County, Rocco. And people know Rocco. And Rocco, I hear him just yelling at me about certain things.
Yeah.
And so it's cool. But that's funny because you play hoop still.
Still.
And you still to this day probably hear that voice, right?
I'll go baseline sometimes when I know I have a speed advantage, but in the men's league that we won the championship, shout out to the Boomers. Yeah, did not go baseline once all season. So, and we got a big show today talking Browns, Cavs, and some Guardians, which is where we're going to start. But first,
I'm also disheveled back here, guys. But before we get into everything, let me remind you about Buckeye State Credit Union. If you haven't heard of them yet, meet your new favorite financial partner. Buckeye State Credit Union is a local institution offering everything from checking accounts to home equity lines of credit and auto loans with some of the lowest rates in Northeast Ohio. Their Cleveland branch is in Shaker Heights, which is one of 5 locations across the state, making it super easy to find one near you. And if you can't get to a branch, no problem. They make it super simple through digital banking. What sets them apart? They make banking personal and convenient. At Buckeye, their focus is you. Their core values, connect, simply, adapt, guide everything they do. They bring people together, cut through the clutter, and are innovative. To learn more, visit buckeyecu.org. Buckeye State Credit Union, your money simplified.
all right, guys, let's start with a little Guardians talk today. The Guards fell to the Blue Jays 10-6 last night. It was only the second time in the entire month of June the Guardians scored more than 4 runs, Jason, which is hard to fathom because it is June 25th, and this is just the second time they've scored more than 2 runs. It was a so-so, if not on the bad end of so-so start from Logan Allen. But the bats, once again, Jason, came up too little too late for the Guardians to be able to salvage a win.
Well, you had a chance until the 8th.
We're saying the same things every day at this point. I'm tired of watching the platoons. I'm tired of watching Jonathan Rodriguez in the lineup.
That error was so bad.
Two errors on the same play. I don't know what it's going to take for Chase DeLauder, CJ Kafis to come up. I don't know that they're going to solve everything, but I think we've seen enough. Like, center field is a black hole. Right field is a black hole right now. Lane Thomas had the home run yesterday, but he's been just awful.
His OPS is sub-5.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know how long you can hang in with platoons when the platoons aren't working. And I know he had the homer yesterday, but I would like to see the best players on the team on the field every day. That's all. I don't know why that's such an outlandish thing to say right now. So Kavas is mashing. I think he homered again last night.
Grand slam.
DeLauder's playing well. Yes, he may get hurt again, but let him get hurt in Cleveland rather than Columbus if it's going to happen again. This team, I really don't think this team is that far away. I know what the standings say, but if they can just, the pitching staff is rounding in a form. If they can just find a couple more guys who can give them consistent at-bats, they're still in this in terms of the wild card. Then you get Bieber back and anything's possible.
Can I give you some stats real quick on Kafis and DeLauder?
Yeah.
Because to me, the big takeaway is we need those guys up there. At some point, you need them up there. In 63 games in AAA this year, or in the minors this year, Kafis has 32 extra base hits. 32 extra base hits, 63 games. Since the start of last year, Kafis has played in 170 minor league games. He has 81 extra base hits. Jeez. 81 in 170 games. He's hitting 322 this season. His OPS in AAA is 974, or 972. He's got 9 homers and 38 RBIs. He deserves a chance to see if he can do this on the major league level. If you look at DeLauder, he has a 24-game on-base streak in his last 13 games. He's hitting 400 in 13 games, Jason. He's 18 of 45 with 3 doubles, a triple, 2 homers, and 11 ribbies. What more do you need to see?
Yeah, it's and listen, they could come up here and struggle and be right back down in 3 weeks. That's entirely possible. But it just feels like we need to get to that point so that if you get the struggles out of the way almost, so that they know what they need to work on, so that they sort of see where they're at. One of the issues is they're all left-handed. I think if some of these guys were right-handed, it would be a little bit different. But, Nolan Jones is finally starting to come around a little bit. His numbers have been better lately. His StatCast numbers have been great all year. And now you're starting to bear the fruit of that a little bit. But he's out of options. So, I mean, I'd be fine with him. First of all, I thought Stephen Kwan should have been moved to center field 2 years ago. I don't care that he's elite in left field and wins Gold Gloves. If you win Gold Gloves, I do care. I shouldn't say that. Of course you care. But if you are that good of a defender in left field, obviously you can handle center too. If you put Kwan in center field and open up the corner spots for guys like DeLauder, Kafis, and Nolan Jones, it feels like it's a little bit better of a fit. But they aren't going to do that. They haven't done it to this point. They're not going to do it. Kwan clearly is comfortable in left. They're going to leave him in left. Jones is passable in center that we've seen to this point. But right field has just been atrocious from an offensive standpoint. So I just would like to see the best hitters in the lineup every day. That includes Kyle Manzardo. That may or may not include Chase DeLauder or CJ Kavas. We won't know until they get up there and get the opportunity. But one of them needs to be here.
Zach Meisel wrote an article the other day that I thought made the best point that no one's talked about in terms of DeLauder yet. He's been hurt a lot throughout his minor league career.
Yeah.
Got hurt coming out of college. He still hasn't played 4 games in a row at any point in the minor leagues. Well, what the platoon the guards do, they don't need him to play 4 games in a row, right? Like, you could play him 1 or 2 games, give him his natural rest day, so he's not playing and putting that extra strain on whether it's the foot, the lower body. He had a shoulder injury at some point. Like, they have those built-in rest days for him already. So it makes perfect sense if you call him up and you're worried about, will he get enough at-bats? Do we have a spot for him in the lineup every day? He's not a guy that needs 7 days in the lineup each week. He's a guy that needs 2 day off, 3 day off, which fits right into the platoon system that Stephen Vogt likes to operate under anyway.
That depends on when the lefty's coming up in terms of when the day off, if you want to structure it that way. But they have enough optionality, to your point. They have enough versatility. If it's a right-hander up and you want to sit Chase, you can. You can put Nolan in left or in right. You have other lefties or whatever. Because I don't think Nolan Jones is going anywhere. That's not the guy in jeopardy, I wouldn't think, just because he's out of options. And they traded for him. They gave up someone in Tyler Freeman for him, and he has been coming around these last few weeks. But there's certainly other candidates on the roster. I mean, Jonathan Rodriguez, I've seen enough. I saw enough before he even came up. He certainly looks the type of a 4A player, and it's time to give the young guys a chance.
Are you ready for
Are we kidding ourselves that this team can actually be something, though? I mean, you're like, you say it. You're like, yeah, we'll see. Beaver gets out,
I think
They're kind of just mid, man.
they are. They are right now for sure. The way that I think we talked about this a couple weeks ago. I think the way teams I think are approaching this is just get in and get hot at the right time. So what the Pacers did. The Pacers were mid at this point in the NBA season, and you get hot at the right time, and the Guardians pitching will allow them that opportunity to get hot at the right time because it's going to keep them in it. Bieber, obviously, everyone knows what Shane will be. I think he'll be back probably within a month, I would think. Probably around mid to end of July after the All-Star break, certainly. And Williams seems to be starting to figure it out and put some things together. Bybee has been up and down, but I've always believed in Tanner Bybee, and I just think they have a front of the rotation that's going to keep them in it more so than, when they made the trade a couple years ago when they were a couple games out and they traded Savali and they sort of pulled the cord on that. I agreed with that because that to me felt like a team that was going nowhere, and that was a really good trade because you traded a lesser for a better. And that was a move you couldn't make in April or in September. It was only at the trade deadline you're going to be able to make that move. Because of where the pitching is trending in the right direction with this team. Because of where their pitching is, it's going to keep them in games, even in postseason games. And you just got to get hot at the right time. And, yeah, I know at the end of June, I've said it before, it's hard to watch their games sometimes. It's just hard to get through the game. It's just they're boring. But I still believe in this team. I believe in the pitching staff for sure. And if they can just tweak a couple of spots in the lineup, they'll give themselves an opportunity. I'm not going to sit here and tell you they're going to win the World Series. They're the favorites. They're not. But they'll give themselves an opportunity in October.
I think you guys are both right. I think Dustin's right that overall this team is basically mid. The record shows that they're 39 and 38. They're one game above 500, which is about as mid as it gets.
Yeah.
The lineup does not scare anybody. You have Jose and you have a bunch of guys that don't really put a ton of fear inside the other pitchers in mind. I mean, Kwan's a great hitter, but he's not a home run threat. But
Dude, if you're a casual baseball fan like me who doesn't watch live and die with every pitch, I mean, I'm watching guys that I've never heard of in the lineup.
There's a lot of them. And they take
a lot of them.
A lot of bad at-bats. But to Jason's point, they do have the pitching if Bieber is Bieber, if Bobby can get consistent. Gavin Williams does have front end of rotation, playoff caliber stuff. Cicconi's been really good in some limited starts. Ortiz has had some really high highs and some low lows. And if your pitching rounds into form come the end of September, end of August into September, then into the playoffs, we just saw the Diamondbacks 2 years ago make the MLB World Series with a lineup that is better than the one the Guardians are putting out now, but it certainly wasn't loaded top to bottom with Judges and Otanis and guys like that. Their pitching just got hot at the right time, which is what you have to hope for if you're a Cleveland fan.
And obviously the bullpen. Gaddis gave it up last night, but for the most part, this bullpen has been tremendous again. You're going to rely heavily on that bullpen again. I just think they have the mix on the pitching side, which is so hard for teams. We talked about it before. If they, and it looks like they have, if they've turned a bad contract in Jimenez, which, they're the ones that gave it to him, so you got to wear some responsibility for that. But if you turn a bad contract in Jimenez and 1 year control and Josh Naylor into two starting pitchers that you're going to have control of for the next 5 or 6 years, that's a win because starting pitching is so hard to find in baseball. And what we've seen so far of Ciccone, although I was reading some stuff, I think his numbers are better than his stuff has indicated to this point. He's maybe getting a little bit lucky. But still, I had no expectations for Slade Ciccone coming into this year. So he's already outperformed what I thought because I just didn't have a real high bar on him. Luis Ortiz, I did have some expectations for. He's had some great moments. He's had some meh moments along the way. But, again, to turn a bad contract in 1 year control of out-of-shape first baseman into two starting controllable pitchers, this organization is excellent at what they do. Now they just need it's just one or two bats. It's not even like – I really don't even think it's as far off as it seems. It's just one or two bats. If they can plug those in, they will be right there in October and give themselves an opportunity.
Well, you turn two black holes into two maybe not all-star caliber bats, but two bats that you could count on to give you something throughout a game. Not automatic outs. You mentioned Hunter Gaddis, though, and I know last night he gave up the grand slam. I went back and was doing some looking. Since mid-May, and this is his line from last night, but if you go back over his last 13 appearances, Jason, he has not been the Hunter Gaddis we had seen and come to appreciate in that all-star caliber setup man role. He's given up 15 hits in 13 innings, 6 earned run as ERAs in the 4s.
Yeah.
14 strikeouts in 13 innings is not bad. Anything over 1 strikeout per inning is good. But for Gaddis, that's a pretty significant drop from where he'd been in the past. Do you have any concerns with what you've seen from Gaddis, or is this just a middle-of-the-season mini-slump?
Not yet. It's end of June. If it's August and we're still having this conversation, then I think we can be a little bit more concerned. But relievers are going to go through patches like this. We've seen it with Clase at times as well. Even the very best guys, mechanics get out of whack, whatever. The margins for relievers are so small because you're only getting, 5, 6, 7 batters a game at max that. So if you miss your spot 1 or 2 times, it's going to show a lot more than it is if a starter does that. And, starters have an opportunity to settle in and all that. These guys don't. So I'm not concerned about him yet, but let's check back in a month, 6 weeks, and see if those numbers still look like that.
Dustin, as we get ready for these final 2 games against the Blue Jays, and I know you're not a diehard baseball fan, but what was it like seeing Jimenez last night in a different team's uniform back here at Progressive Field?
It's a little odd. It's always odd when you see a player that was impactful for your team, has done stuff in the postseason, and then you see him with another club. It's I don't know. What was the sentiment on X last night? I wasn't on during the game.
He got applause.
Yeah.
I think everyone still appreciates Jimenez.
For sure.
His defense, once again, last night, Jason, was stupid. He makes really, 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 really difficult plays look like they're a can of corn. The play he made with the backhand stop going up the middle to throw, I forget who he threw out, but that's not an easy play. He made it by 5 steps.
He should be a shortstop. Second base is important. I think he's wasted a little bit at second. I wonder if Toronto's married to him now with this contract, although they have more financial flexibility than a team like the Guardians. But Bichette's in the last year of his deal. We'll see if he goes back to Toronto or not. If Bichette leaves, I wonder if they'll shift Jimenez over to short because he is so phenomenal defensively. That's the most important position, or one of the primary positions defensively on the field. That's where I think he should be. And this just tells you his athleticism. I think I've mentioned this before on the show. He is naturally left-handed. He taught himself to throw right-handed because he loves catching growing up as a kid, and you can't be a left-handed catcher. So he taught himself to throw. That's how immensely.
That's absurd.
I mean, think about that. He taught himself to throw right-handed. He's naturally left-handed.
I can't even brush my teeth right-handed.
He taught himself to play right-handed so that he could catch as a kid because he just loved to catch so much. He's just one of those freaking natures athletically.
Why is he not a switch hitter then?
Well, because he only worked on throwing from the right.
True.
So, I don't know.
Maybe he should have worked on the other side.
Yeah.
Could have. Certainly helped him out. Who's the pitching matchup tonight? Do you know, Jason?
Gavin and is it Scherzer coming off the DL?
Oh, it is Scherzer.
DIL?
We had Brandon Iwasco yesterday, the host of the Locked On Guardians podcast, come on, and he basically said if the Blue Jays get anything from Scherzer, it's a win. Like anything at all.
Is that guy still making like $25 million a year?
No, I can't remember how they got him now. I don't remember if there was a trade or free agent signing.
I'll look it up.
I don't remember. I mean, he's obviously at the end of his career. It's been a remarkable career.
Oh, yeah.
But he's barely pitched at all. Did that say 3 innings for the year? I didn't think it was. He got hurt in his first start.
I think that's minor league stats this year. I don't think he's pitched yet in the majors.
I thought he did.
Oh, he's 3 innings on this. Yep.
Yeah.
March 29th, got hurt his first start.
Okay. I thought he pitched a little bit more than that early in the year.
Nope, 3 innings, 3 hits, 2 runs against the Baltimore Orioles.
So, I mean, yeah, obviously a veteran, tremendous in his day, but clearly at the end of his rope, and hopefully the Guardians can jump on him early.
43rd round pick. Also, he's making $15 million this year.
It's not bad for 3 innings.
What's he got left on his contract? Is it 1 year?
1 year deal.
Yeah.
All right, Ant, you want to talk some Browns?
Yeah, guys, let's get to the Browns here. And before, we got a new sponsor. Their name is Rujit Ready. Guys, you've probably heard of Viagra and Cialis. Maybe you've even tried them. But if you're looking for something beyond the usual pill, it's time to meet Rujit Ready. Rujit Ready is a next-gen prescription treatment designed to amplify arousal in the brain and boost blood flow. Unlike the usual pills that can take hours, Rujit's 3-in-1 formula dissolves under your tongue and kicks in fast. On average, about 15 minutes. And effects can last up to 36 hours, so you can stay confident and in control when the moment is right. If traditional options haven't worked, Rujit might be the answer. Over 150,000 men have already made the switch. So head over to Rougit.com/LockedOnNFL and use code LockedOnNFL to get 15% off today. That's RUGIET.com/LockedOnNFL and use promo code LockedOnNFL for 15% off. Individual results may vary with prescription treatment. Compounded drugs are permitted to be prescribed under federal law but are not FDA approved and do not undergo FDA safety, effectiveness, and manufacturing review. Please visit Rougit website for full safety information.
Thank you for that, Ant. Let's talk a little football now, guys. ESPN put out an article ranking the 8 last place teams from 2024 in terms of their chances to go from worst to first in 2025. The Browns obviously one of those 8 teams. So let's look at how ESPN ranked these teams in order of most likely to go worst to first to least likely. Up first was the San Francisco 49ers. Second place, the Bears. Third place, the Patriots. In fourth, the Saints. We'll talk about the order, whether or not we agree with this particular order in a second. In fifth place, you had the Titans. In sixth, the Raiders. The Giants came in seventh, and the Browns were ranked the least likely team who finished in last place to now go worst to first. ESPN gave them a 2.2% chance of winning the division this year. Dustin, when you see that list, we'll get to the other 7 teams in a second, but 2.2% chance for the Browns to go from worst to first. Does that sound about right to you?
I mean, probably, but I think it's probably 2.2% for most of those teams that are on that list. You know, for them, the Browns.
The Giants were at 3.3 and 7th.
Yeah, I mean, it's close for all those teams. I mean, none of those teams are probably going to have a great year. The Browns, I think the win total is 5.5 in Vegas. I mean, that's probably the right number. You know, to go to first, there's just no chance.
Look at the quarterbacks in the division.
Unless, and again, it's all at this point hypothetical. But Flacco would have to be amazing, or Pickett, or Shador would be the offensive rookie of the year. Like, would have an amazing season. Like, everything would have to go the Browns' direction. I mean, you probably need an injury to like Lamar Jackson, or something like that, because we know the Bengals and the Ravens are really good. Aaron Rodgers is in Pittsburgh. You need that thing to go south. You need probably Lamar to have an off year or get hurt, and then maybe Burrow, his offensive line decides not to block for him like they did in the last couple of years. So I mean, that's how it could happen. It's unlikely. I mean, maybe 2% is a little low. I'd put it maybe a little higher, but not by much.
Jason, any issue with the Browns being ranked last on their chances to go from worst to first?
When's the last time they won a division? The 80s?
They've never won the division.
Well, yeah, since coming back.
Yeah.
So what has to happen for the Browns to win the division? Well, a work stoppage.
Change the colors, change the team name. No, I'm kidding.
A strike.
I said no miracles in the rundown.
A strike and lockout players, or players to cross the picket line and scabs, and then the Browns can win the division. That's the only way that the Browns can win. I mean, come on, be serious. If they couldn't win the division with the players that they've had the last couple of years, they're not winning the division with what they have now. So it's unfortunate, the division that they're in. It's sort of like the AL East in baseball, it feels like at times, or the NL West. They're against just some of the best, most, you're talking the Steelers and Ravens just on average, highly functioning, well-run teams, and you got to go against that every single year. So, yeah, they're in a tough spot. But, no, this team, absolutely they should be one of the worst percentage-type teams to win the division. It's just not – it's not happening this year.
The Browns have 4 quarterbacks competing for the starting job.
Yeah.
The AFC North has 2 of the top 4 quarterbacks in football. Like, make no mistake about it. Lamar and Burrow, in some order, are 2 of the top 4 guys. Now you have Aaron Rodgers.
Has Burrow won an MVP? No, right?
No, he's not won an MVP.
No, I was going to say, because, I mean, you've got an MVP in Rodgers now in your division. You've got a multi-time MVP in Lamar Jackson. Yeah. Like, dude, it's a damn hard division. Gauntlet's probably the best way to put it.
And you look at the Steelers, even prior to Aaron Rodgers, they're always competitive. Mm-hmm. Tomlin's never been sub 500. He made 500 teams out of Duck Hodges and Mason Rudolph and Kenny Pickett. Now he's got Aaron Rodgers in the fold. When you look at the Browns, they have the lowest win total projection in Vegas out of any team. They have the 3rd hardest strength of schedule according to win projections.
That is one thing I don't really love. I don't love that stat because it's based off of last year.
I'm just saying when you look at the projection of it, who knows how they're going to be.
To me, those are like silly because you're basing it off of like a roster of last year versus new. Most teams have new.
I was saying the projected win totals.
So they factor in the roster changes.
Yeah.
Okay.
So Warren Sharp puts it together in the sense of
All
looking
right.
at all the projected win totals for
I
25.
like Warren Sharp. I'll give you a pass.
Smashing it. They have the third hardest schedule looking at 2025 win totals, not what they previously
Okay.
did in 2024.
Got it. Okay.
And they have 4 quarterbacks competing for a job. If you don't have a quarterback, you're not going to win in this league. It's so hard to succeed without legitimately solid, good quarterback play. And we've looked at the schedule. We've played the schedule game. Like, the Browns' schedule is incredibly difficult, and they're going to be in a ton of shootouts. You're going to need either Shador or Dylan or Joe or Kenny, one of those guys, to be able to match point for point with, look at the list, with Joe Burrow, with Lamar Jackson, with Jordan Love, with Jared Goff. We don't know how good J.J. McCarthy is, but he was a top 10 pick as opposed to Gabriel and Sanders, who were 3rd and 5th round picks. Doesn't mean they can't be better than J.J. in the long run, but looking at it from just that perspective, one was significantly higher regarded coming out of college than the rest. You could keep going down the schedule. Aaron Rodgers, Tua, Drake May, Justin Fields. Like, it's a gauntlet. I know not every one of those guys is a perennial Pro Bowler, but Lamar again, Purdy just got paid, Caleb Williams, Cam Moore. Like, it's a gauntlet. Then you got Josh Allen, and Rodgers and Burrow again. One of those guys has to step up and be able to score points. So I don't really have an issue with them being ranked where they are, 2.2%. Maybe it's a little low, but if I said 5%.
That's about right. 2.2 is about right. Might be a little high.
You think it's a little high?
If you play this NFL season 100 times, are the Browns winning the division twice?
Just to piss you off, I'm going to say they're going to do it 3 times.
I think it's less.
It feels about right. It feels about right.
It doesn't matter.
It's gonna be a death march, boys.
Yeah. It's all about finding the quarterback. That's it. That's it.
And what sucks is right now is like we have nothing to really talk about with this team because there's nothing going on until these guys hit the field in training camp.
Yeah.
This is that slow time where it's like, man, we know the team's not going to be great, and we still don't know who the quarterback's going to be. This is like just painful. It's a painful time.
They had the 5th pick in the draft, and how many segments have you done on the 5th pick in the draft since the draft?
2 or 3.
Think about that.
He hasn't put on pads.
I'm not blaming you, but I'm just saying.
Yeah.
I mean, think about it.
I mean, nobody really cares.
And that doesn't mean it's a bad pick. Like, actually,
I'm sure it's going to be a fine pick.
Yeah, it could be a great pick.
We all really like Mason Graham, the football player.
It could be a
It's
great
kind of
pick.
like when we drafted Miles to some degree because we knew Miles was going to be a great player. I think we all think Mason's going to be a great player, but it's not sexy and it's not the quarterback. It's and we know we're not going to win until we have a quarterback. We could have a really good defense and we could have guys that win defensive MVP and have all these sacks and amazing stats or whatever. But until we have the quarterback, we all know it
doesn't matter.
The Browns are 2.2%.
Let me ask you guys this, because I genuinely don't know what the answer would be. Let's say the Browns had an established quarterback, right? For the sake of this, let's just say they didn't draft Sanders, they didn't draft Gabriel. It was Flacco's job, right? It was Flacco, and they kept DTR. But we had no quarterback controversy. Joe Flacco was going to be the starting quarterback in 2025. And they still made the trade, and Mason Graham was the pick at 5. How much more would we be talking about Mason Graham than we have? Because we wouldn't have to do the entire quarterback carousel, who will it be, who won't it be, and focus so much attention on that storyline.
It's still a defensive tackle. I don't think we would have done maybe 1 or 2 more segments. I don't think anything more than that, just because it's so hard. How many people like talking about the defensive tackle?
G. Bush.
Yes, and outside of him. You played on defense. You like talking about defensive tackles?
I don't like talking about defense, period. To be honest with you, I mean, we can talk about some cornerback play or whatnot, but no, defense isn't fun to talk about for people. I don't mind talking about defense, but you know what I'm saying. We're talking about the sexy positions. We want to talk about receivers and guys that score touchdowns.
Yeah,
It's
Browns
crazy.
don't have many of those.
no.
I mean, they lost one of their leading touchdown scorers last year in Ronnie McLeod, who plays safety.
That's crazy.
He was actually great in the locker room. I enjoyed talking to him.
He's a
He's
good
great.
dude.
He's great.
Who, now that he's gone, could Casey, who's the other safety they signed? Jenkins, Rayshon Jenkins? Like, could one of those guys fill a little bit of that leadership void on the defensive side of the ball?
I have no idea because I've never talked to him. I don't know. Know when we get in there, when we get in the locker room and see who's got the OG status.
You can't tell that from the little bit of OTAs you get to see?
I will
I know you weren't there.
totally
for all.
honest. When I was there, I was not paying any attention to the safeties at all.
All eyes on the quarterback?
All eyes on the quarterback. Yeah, basically. I watched a couple drills here and there, just if they were happening right in front of you, But for the most part, it was all quarterback all the time.
And we pull up that list one more time, real quick, 1 through 4, and then 5 through 8. When you look at these other teams, we got a few minutes to kill here. When you look at the other teams, San Francisco probably is the obvious number one, considering last year it was the season from hell from them. Everyone got hurt. Ayuk was out. I know they traded Debo, but Trent Williams missed a time. He should be back. Ayuk should be healthy. Purdy was paid this offseason. Christian McCaffrey should be healthy. Would you make a case for any of those 4 teams being ahead of San Francisco in terms of the team most likely to go from worst to first?
The only
It's
one,
not going to be the Patriots.
No, it's not going to be the Patriots. I mean, I guess you could say the Bears. New coach, Caleb taking a leap. I guess you could make that case, but are they really going to beat the Lions in the division?
Refresh my memory. Who did the Saints sign as their quarterback?
Tyler.
They drafted Shuck.
Shuck.
Yeah.
The only reason they're at 4 is because their division is such a crapshoot. Like, it's the only – because they're not
I mean, the answer
good.
is they have this right. I mean, the Niners will probably be the most likely to go from worst to first because of their injury situation. They've got their quarterback back.
I would like the Bears.
Yeah, I mean, the Bears are right there.
I would like the Bears better if they weren't in the Lions division.
Yeah.
That's going to hurt them. The Saints.
It's all a division play with them.
Yeah, and that's. I guess you could probably make a really strong case for the Saints just because the division that they're in. The Patriots aren't going to beat the Bills.
Even though the Saints suck. You look at that roster, that is not a good roster.
Yeah.
And who is 5, Ant? Who is 5?
5 is the Titans.
5 is the Titans. The Giants aren't beating the Eagles. Raiders, I can't see them beating the Chiefs. I mean, if Cam Ward's good, maybe the Titans have a chance because that division. I like the Texans, but
Yeah. Agree. That division isn't overwhelming. Jacksonville seems to underwhelm every year, and the Browns fans certainly hope they underwhelm one more time. What do you hear up there?
you hear that rattling?
No,
Do you hear it?
No.
it's just in your head. Your head's
No,
rattling.
I definitely. It's not loud, but I definitely hear something. Wouldn't it be funny? This is the one year the Jaguars don't implode. The one year that they don't control their own fate, and the Browns would be the beneficiary of a classic Jacksonville implosion. And
Win
this
the
is the
division,
year
win 12
that
games.
Trevor Lawrence
13.
puts it all together.
Yeah.
Travis Hunter's a stud. ETN stays healthy.
It's certainly possible, guys. I mean,
Of course
Yeah.
it is.
I've picked them to be good the last 5 years, and they have not lived up to. I don't know if it's 5, but they have not lived up to expectations in any of said years. So it would be. Typical.
they've been to the playoffs twice or once in those 5 years.
Got to be 2. It's got to be
Well,
2.
Trevor Lawrence, they had that 28-point collapse against the Chargers.
They lost the Dolphins one year, right? Didn't they?
The
No,
Jaguars
no.
won that game, didn't they, against the Chargers?
Did the Chargers collapse in that game?
I forget. I don't know. It was
I feel
one
like
of the
they've been
teams
to the
collapsed.
It
One of
wasn't
those
the
two.
Dolphins. I feel like they've been to the playoffs twice, though.
Could be once or twice.
Either way, I think Trevor Lawrence is a good player, and people are like hate on Trevor Lawrence, and that's fine. I think he's going to be he's going to bounce back, turn
Yeah.
things around. Yeah, if he's healthy,
Well,
he's
hopefully,
got. I mean, I like his game.
it would kill Browns fans if he's good and he's just throwing bombs to Travis Hunter. Like it would
Well,
literally
dude,
be.
you know how it's going to play out. It plays out this way every time.
You can tell Dustin's been covering this team forever.
Dude, I mean, yes.
So jaded.
Yes. I mean,
Brian Thomas Jr. and Hunter
every
could be-
day we talked about this, and I worked for the team for 9 years, like we've seen the story before.
They gave the Falcons Julio Jones. And again,
I mean,
I got the receipts. I love the trade. I'm not backing down from that now. I thought it was great because you got to get a quarterback, and it set them up to have the opportunity.
The Julio
to go get a
Jones
quarterback.
trade?
No. I'm sorry. The
Travis Hunter trade.
the Travis
Yeah.
Hunter trade. I'm totally fine with what they did this year because until
Hunter's
solve
going to be a
quarterback-
great player.
Yeah, but until you solve quarterback, it's not going to matter. So, if he's elite and Jacksonville has a great year and they go to the playoffs and it's a low pick, if that's still the ammo that they need to move up, it's still worth it. Now they got to get the pick right. They got to get the quarterback right.
It is sickening that we could have had Shador and Travis.
You could have, yeah.
Can you imagine the media frenzy if that ended up? I mean, just think we have just Shador,
Yeah.
and we have seen an influx of people care about the Browns that had never cared about Cleveland before. If they got Travis and Shador,
Oh yeah.
whoo!
The state of Colorado would have moved to. Well, that's not true, because it's really not Colorado fans. It's really just Shador and Travis Hunter fans.
See, you want these. And what do we got next?
Guys, we're going to Cavs, and Mike, you have some NBA trade or draft targets to go for. But before we do that, I want to remind you guys about Monarch Money. Have you guys ever checked your bank account and wondered where did all my money go? Between dining out, online shopping, and entertainment, it's easy to lose track. That's where Monarch Money comes in, your personal CFO giving you full visibility and control over your finances. Monarch Money isn't just a budgeting app, it's a complete financial command center. You can track all your accounts, investments, and spending in one place, so stop just managing your money and start building wealth. When I started using Monarch, I realized I was spending a lot to deliver food, and I bought a lot of food this week too with the heat wave. But now I budget smarter and I save more with the app. I took control of my finances, and you can take control too. With Monarch Money, use code LOCKEDONNFL at monarchmoney.com for 50% off your first year. That's monarchmoney.com, code LOCKEDONNFL for half off your first year.
So the NBA draft tips off tonight, guys. The first round is tonight. The second round is tomorrow night. Jason, before we dive into some targets, do you think they'll ever split up the draft again, or is this the last year they're going to put it into 2 days? Because they split it for Bronny last year.
Yeah.
It got all the attention in the world, and rightfully so. And now this year, I don't think there's going to be an ounce of juice following the day 2 of the draft.
No. It should be one. It's only 2 rounds in the NBA. This isn't the NFL. Adam Silver keeps trying to create the NFL with some of the things that they're doing, I think, and it's not. I'm not going to say it's not going to be in 20 years. Who knows what the future holds? But right now, this is silly.
So the Cavs don't have a first-round pick. They have 2 picks in the second round currently, 49 and 58. And to get you guys prepared for what could happen tomorrow night, once again, not tonight. Tonight's just the first round. Tomorrow night, I went through and picked out 5 guys I think could be good fits for the Cavs if they are on the board at either of their picks. And I put together a little list of my personal top 5 targets for the Cavs at 49 and 58. Some of these guys may or may not be there. They may be drafted a little earlier. Some guys may go undrafted. But these are 5 guys that I did a little digging on that I think would fit a specific role if they were there. So I'm going to give you the top 5, and we'll talk a little bit about each one. So, and if you want to pull up the list, I will give you my top 5 targets. Number 1 is Kobe Bryant from Kentucky, elite sharpshooter, 4-year Dayton player, transferred to Kentucky. I'll show you some of his highlights in a second. Mo Diawara from France would be my number 2 target. I think he's a better option for the Cavs at 58 as a draft and stash guy. I'd be lying to tell you I'm super familiar with his game, but I had people from multiple different teams tell me he destroyed higher-rated prospects in workouts. Kenny Atkinson coached on the French national team. He has ties to French basketball. This feels like a perfect draft and stash candidate, and guys smarter than me have told me they really like him, so you know what? I'm going to listen to them for once. He's number 2 on my list. I like Cam Jones out of Marquette. Lefty, 6'5", combo guard, had been more of a point guard, been more of a scorer, can shoot a little bit, very physical, pretty good defender. I think he's a guy that can plug and play right away off your bench. He's my number 3 target for the Cavs. Number 4, Bryce Williams, a bigger sharpshooting wing out of Nebraska, averaged 20 points as a senior this most recent season at Nebraska for the Cornhuskers. 6'7", good 3-point shot. He fits all the guardrails, for lack of a better word, that Kobe Altman's looked at in the past. And then Dylan Cardwell, the big man out of Auburn. The Cavs need a big physical backup 5. He is 7 foot, 245 pounds, athletic as all, tested through the roof. Didn't show much on the offensive end other than a putback guy for the Tigers, but I do think there's more to his offensive game than what he was allowed to do in college. All these guys, outside of Diawara, the 4 guys from the U.S., are at least legitimate seniors. 3 of the 4 are fifth-year seniors because of COVID, went back and got that extra experience. I think if the Cavs are going to draft someone at 49 or 58, it'll be a guy with multiple years of college experience who they feel can plug and play in theory as opposed to a developmental guy who needs 3 or 4 years to get ready. Draft and stash, different case, but those are the 5 guys I had targeted. Dustin, are you familiar with any of these 5 guys before I give you a little extra?
Cam Jones, Bryce Williams, Cardwell. I mean, these guys I saw just because of the conference tournaments and stuff at the end of the year. Don't know the European prospects at all. And these guys are projected to be second-round picks, which means there's a low probability they even make the roster.
Yep.
But God love you because you know all these guys, and that's we need you on the show because I don't know really much about any of these prospects, and you know the Cavs could end up with one of these guys, and who the hell knows? Maybe they end up making the team and becoming something for them.
Jason, before I give you a little more insight on these guys, are you familiar with any of their games? / have heard anything about these guys?
Yeah, a little bit. The one actually that I'm most intrigued by is a guy I don't know anything about, which is Diawara, only because I think you make a good point. Kenny's probably familiar with him just because of his time coaching the France national team. I just looked him up. He's 6'8" and 20 years old. I'm not going to pretend to be a Mo Diawara expert. I'm not. But the idea of a draft and stash guy makes sense for a roster like this because it's such a full roster, and the Cavs have been really good, frankly, with second-round picks and undrafted guys. They've done a nice job of finding talent on the margins. When you talk about listen, I've crushed him in the playoffs too, but to take Dean Wade from an undrafted position, develop him for a couple of years, sign him to the contract that they did, he has contributed to this team. Yes, he's been a disappointment in the playoffs, but it's still a win for the scouting department, for the development team, to be able to bring him to the point that he is. Sam Merrill is not a guy, that's more of a guy off the scrap heap that they've brought in, but they've just done a nice job moving around on the margins. So if they can do that again, I don't know that they need 2 second-round picks. You know, if you can combine them and move up, that makes sense to me tomorrow night. They're not moving into the first round, I don't think. I'd be shocked if they do something to land in the first round. But if they move up the board and land in the second round, higher in the second round, dump a 2 for a future consideration, I don't know. I just don't know that you need 2 second-round picks on this team.
I agree. Let's start with Diawara because, once again, like you, I'm kind of unfamiliar with this game. Before I was told about him from a couple of different people. I'd never heard of the guy before, so I'm not going to pretend to be an expert. But all I know about Diawara was a Western Conference team brought all the French prospects in at once for just a big group workout. They all kind of traveled together. And there are 2 French prospects who are expected to be first-round picks. Essengay is expected to be a lottery pick. The guy from that Western Conference team I talked to said he could not believe that after watching these guys work out, Essengay was a projected lottery pick, and this guy was a late second-round projection. He said he was the best individual guy they had in that entire workout, which included 2 first-round picks. It's just one workout.
Did well with.
They did Khalifa Diop, who has not played yet, so that was a swing and miss.
Luke Travers was a draft and stash guy in Australia for a couple of years. So there's, I mean, you can say there's risk, but it's a second round. How much risk is there? I don't see anything wrong with drafting a guy and leaving him overseas for a year or 2 to develop and then bringing him over. There's just not a lot of room right now in this rotation and even at the end of the bench. So, you know, I would rather swing on upside. That's just me. You know, we talked on the Cavs show this morning. I think Jalen Tyson's going to have an opportunity for rotation minutes. Craig Porter Jr. maybe will have an opportunity. I would rather swing on a guy who you have to wait a year for, who might give you more, than take a low ceiling guy that you kind of is a finished product that you know what you've got.
My number 1 guy on the list is Kobe Brea. And pull up the highlights for Brea, because if you guys are unfamiliar, I want you to watch this 2-minute highlight package, and I'll tell you exactly why I think he fits. Sam Merrill, I don't think is coming back. It's going to be Jerome or Sam. 5.5 without shoes, which means with shoes and an wingspan, which is not great. But so did Desmond Bain, Tyler Hero, and J.J. Redick. Led the country on 7.5 3-point attempts per game, shooting 50% from beyond the arc. Kevin Pelton, who is one of the bigger NBA draft guys, said according to his shooting calculator, Brea is the best college shooter he's ever scouted. This dude is an absolute sniper. He doesn't do a ton else. He's not super athletic, not necessarily a great playmaker. Defensively, leaves a lot to be desired. But if you're looking for a 6'7" wing who can absolutely shoot the crap out of the ball, Kobe Brea is the guy. And when you're looking at second-round picks, I need to know you have one skill that translates. I need to know you have one thing that on the NBA level I can count on for you to deliver, could, in theory, crack the rotation at some point. That's my number 1 option.
Well, you sold me. You sure he's going to be there?
He's a projected second-round pick somewhere in the 40s, so I think at 49 he could be in play. I don't think he'll be there at 58. Kevin Pelton has him as his 20th ranked prospect. Everyone else has him in the mid-40s, early 50s, because outside of shooting, he doesn't offer a ton else.
Right.
But his shooting translates.
The NBA is a shooting league right now. I mean,
yeah.
It seems like this guy, to me, if he's the best shooter in the draft, would go in the first round.
He kind of reminds me a little bit, just watching that highlight clip, because I didn't watch a ton of it. A little bit of Joe Harris when the Cavs took him
Yeah.
at the top of the second round a few years ago. Same type of MO, Joe could shoot the lights out of it. Didn't really do a whole lot else. And Joe went on to have a very lucrative career in the NBA. Signed a big contract, I think, with Brooklyn.
Yep.
And had a couple really, really good years as one of the top 3-point shooters in the league. So, I mean, yeah. Where are they, 41?
49.
49. I'll be surprised if he's there at 49.
I'll tell you this. Just like I took to be right and insufferable to them, or they're all going to laugh at me for liking a guy way more than everyone else. So maybe it's just me trying to con myself into shooting being the single most valuable trait, but also shooting's everywhere in the league now. Almost everyone can shoot to some capacity, so being an elite shooter, maybe not as important. But Kobe Bryant, a guy I really do like.
Go back to Sam for a second. Merrill, he's a little undersized, but he bounced around a lot before he really sort of found his footing with the Cavs. He was I want to say he was with 3 or 4 teams.
I know
before Cleveland,
Milwaukee, Sacramento,
and I think there was another stop in
at
there.
least 2.
And so sometimes with some of these guys, they bounce around. They got to figure it out.
Find the right system.
Sam's not young by any means now. He's, 27, 28? Somewhere in there, I think.
He's 28, yeah.
So,
Sam had a quick stint in Memphis, too. That's the third team.
That's the third team. Okay.
He had a 10-day with Sacramento, but never actually,
Yeah, he only played in 6 games.
But here he is. He finally figured it out all these years later. He got in the right system, got with the right team around him, and he'll probably make himself a little bit of money now this offseason.
So Bray is a guy I really like. Another guy who was number 3 on my list was Cam Jones out of Marquette. Lefty guard, physical, 6'5", played off the ball for most of his career, then played on the ball this year at Marquette when they lost their point guard. Was an All-American, averaged 19 points, 6 assists, 4.5 rebounds per game. A very smart defender coming from Shaka's smart system. He's a guy that I doubt is going to be there at 49, but a downhill player, big enough size to be a distraction defensively to kind of get guys off their mark and at least allow enough time for the help to recover. He also could be a facilitator if needed. He played here in Cleveland in the NCAA tournament when Marquette played in the first 2 rounds here, but he's a guy that I actually really like and think will be drafted before the Cavs are on the clock. But if he's there at 49, I would be thrilled they can find a way to get Cam Jones. And he's one of the guys you saw play.
Yeah, I mean, I saw him play, obviously in the tournament, saw him play in Stead.
Good teams find talent everywhere. The Thunder, how many guys in their rotation were second-round picks? It's a high number.
Definitely a few.
Hartenstein. Caruso was undrafted. Wiggins was a second-round pick.
Was Dort a second-round pick?
I don't. And look at where Lou Dort was drafted.
I don't think he was a second-round.
Isaiah Joe's a second-round pick. That's at least 4 guys.
Now, Hartenstein
Lou
was
Dort
a free
went
agent.
undrafted.
So 5.
Even
more. Yeah. I thought he was a little first.
Him and Caruso, 2 undrafted guys.
Caruso was established by the time they got him, and Hartenstein, but the other guys, it's weird as we talk about how the NBA changes. There was a time where you had to have a top 5 pick to feel comfortable about getting a star, and now you can find them on the margins. You can find them in the second round, undrafted. Obviously, Jokic, mid to late first round guys now hit and are much better than they were 20 years ago. It's just weird how it's changed. It's not anymore that, and yet teams still obviously tank and try and get those top 3, top 5 picks. But you can find talent in a lot of places now in the NBA, and I think that's sort of the spread of the globalization of the game. And now you've got guys all over the world that are playing, and only 60 picks. Think about it, only 30. Think about the NFL, how many rounds there are. MLB draft, how many rounds there are. NBA, it's 2 rounds. That's it. So there's a lot of talent out there to find, I think, because of the globalization of the game. You can find talent from anywhere.
2 more names just to keep running through. We mentioned Bryce Williams, the small forward out of Nebraska. Another guy who's, I believe he's going to be 24 by the time the season starts, so an older rookie. He's going to be a second-round pick, whether it's before, whether it's after. He could go undrafted. But Bryce Williams out of Nebraska, a guy who averaged 20 points a game. The highlights are in there somewhere, and if you want to pull them up. But averaged 20 points, 3 assists, 4 rebounds. He was their only offensive threat in Nebraska, Jason. So the numbers, even though 20 points is impressive, however you get it, he was really their only threat offensively. He's a little bigger and more physical than Brea was, but not as good of a shooter. But similar kind of build, or not build, but similar kind of shoot-first mentality. He's a little more of a driver than just a pure shooter. I don't think he's as good at any one individual thing as Brea is as a shooter, so that's why I have Kobe Brea rated higher than Bryce Williams, but I do think Bryce Williams has a chance to be an impactful guy off the bench at some point in his NBA career. If not, he's going to make a ton of money in Europe, because if not in the NBA, this is the kind of guy that plays 15 years overseas as an elite scorer on FC Barcelona or something like that.
Yeah. What do your guys say about him?
A Western Conference guy told me they liked his workout, but they didn't think he was quick enough to be an NBA scorer, and he did not work out for the Cavs, even though he fits a lot of the guardrails that Kobe's drafted in the second round of the past.
Interesting.
And one last guy I wanted to mention was Dylan Cardwell from Auburn. The Cavs need a backup big. I think the days of having Dean Wade be your third big man or DeAndre Hunter being your third, it's just not sustainable. You need a legitimate backup big. And Cardwell was a guy who played 5 years at Auburn. The stats, not impressive. 5 points a game, shot 70%. He essentially only dunked the ball. They ran no offense for him. They play a 5-out system where he was just a screener. Got a couple dump-offs, but Janae Broom, who finished second in the College Player of the Year, was his front court mate. This dude's 7'1", 250 pounds, bouncy, and one of the best interior defenders in all of basketball. If there's any ounce of offensive game in there, we didn't see it. It doesn't mean it's not there. They never asked him to show more than what he was capable of. This highlight tape is literally all dunks and blocks. But this is a guy with elite vertical athleticism for a 7', 270-pounder. Really good defensive instincts. He was one of the SEC Defensive Player of the Year guys. And he could finish. And for a second-round pick, once again, I'm going for a skill set I know translates.
Yeah.
It may not be the whole kit and caboodle. That's why you're at 58 and 49, not number 1 and 2. But this guy, from a defensive standpoint, absolutely can make an impact on the NBA level. He was an above-average rebounder per minute. He's a good finisher around the rim. And if there's any more to his offensive game than what we've seen, I'd take a flyer on a guy like that.
They definitely need more size. They could use a bruiser inside, just somebody for short spurt minutes here and there. You're not asking them to start or carry heavy load, but you can just give them, if the guy's got foul trouble or an ankle or anything like that, and you just need to fill a couple small stints. Yeah, I'd totally be interested in a big of some sort.
And one more point on Cardwell. I don't know why Kobe Altman loves Auburn guys, but he loves Auburn guys. Okoro.
It should.
Sharif Cooper.
Good program.
None of these guys have really worked out. So
I'm just saying it's been a good program.
You got Okoro, you got Cooper, you got JT Thor in the last couple of years. Those are all guys.
Does he have ties with somebody inside their personnel department?
I don't know.
Okay.
But he's had more Auburn guys on either two-way contracts, undrafted contracts they brought in through the G League. They also have another guy in the G League right now. I'm drawing a blank on his name, the white kid that can shoot. Number 24.
I forgot Thor was an Auburn guy.
Thor's, yeah.
Yeah.
So they have a little bit of an Auburn to Cleveland connection. So just worth mentioning with Cardwell too. But I know he was a guy that when worked out wowed the Cavs from his athleticism standpoint. So would circle him as a potential name that they could look to draft on round 2 Thursday night.
I'm not excited about the draft. I don't care. Cavs don't have a first-round pick, so
it's crazy.
Yeah, I'd be curious to see who goes.
Are you going to watch tonight?
Yeah. Yeah.
I'm fascinated by this Ace Bailey story.
Yeah.
Fascinated by it.
Yeah, I'll watch tonight because I want to see if anything happens with the Spurs, with the pick. Like, there's things I'm interested to watch from a league-wide standpoint, but from the Cavs' perspective, there's just not a lot there right now.
You have any interest tonight, Dustin?
I didn't even know it was tonight, to be honest with you. I've never really watched the draft outside of when the Cavs were picking.
Yeah.
I was actually more interested in the lottery than I was the actual draft itself. I don't love the NBA draft for whatever reason, but honestly, there's no other sports on. You want to watch the Guardians? Put up 2 runs.
Yeah, I'll watch tonight because I like watching Gavin Williams pitch. So I'll watch the Guardians.
What time does this thing start? 8?
The draft?
Yeah.
Draft's 8.
Guardians like 6:40.
I knew the Guardians are early. Yeah, I got a tennis match.
Nice.
Didn't you play this morning?
I play twice a day.
You're a beast.
I am an animal.
I think we're having friends over tonight, actually. So
yeah?
We'll see who
wins the
little
TV.
cookout?
Little cookout, yeah. Friends from out of town.
Cool.
Nice. All right, Ant, where we go next?
We're going back to baseball next because we got the baseball trade deadline coming up in about a month, and MLB just released, or ESPN just released their top 50 trade targets. But before we do that, Buckeye State Credit Union. If you haven't heard of them, guys, meet your new favorite financial partner. Buckeye State Credit Union is a local institution offering everything from checking accounts to home equity lines of credit and auto loans with some of the lowest rates in Northeast Ohio. The Cleveland branch is in Shaker Heights, which is one of 5 locations across Ohio, making it super easy to find one near you. If you can't get to a branch, it's no problem. They make banking super simple through their digital banking. And what sets them apart? They make banking professional and convenient. At Buckeye, their focus is you. Their core values, connect, simply, adapt, guide everything they do. They bring people together, cut through the clutter, and are innovative. To learn more, visit buckeyecu.org. Buckeye State Credit Union. Your money simplified.
So Jeff Passan, Cleveland native Jeff Passan, put out his top 50 trade targets at the MLB trade deadline, which, as Ant mentioned a second ago, is just a little bit away. We don't know if the Guardians will be buyers or sellers. They're one game over 500, still in the thick of the wild card race. But as Dustin pointed out eloquently before, 39-38 is a mid record, and this team may be mid. So they can honestly go either way. But Jeff Passan put on each trade target best possible fit. So, and if you want to pull up the 6 players he listed as possible fits for Cleveland, are these names. Maybe you're familiar with some, maybe you're not. Duran from the Red Sox, Marcell Ozuna from Atlanta, Cedric Mullins from the Orioles, Luis Robert Jr., who we've talked about on this show before. From the White Sox, Taylor Ward and Adolis Garcia. 6 names that, if they are dealt, Cleveland would be one of the better fits. Jason, when you see this list, do any of those names in particular stand out to you as a guy the Guardians should be in on if they do decide to become buyers at the deadline?
I mean, Luis Robert is the name that always comes up, I think for good reason. I think he's a guy who's sort of a buy low guy. I don't think the price would be – I mean, at one time he was one of the top prospects in the game, and he had a lousy year last year, and he's even worse this year. But I think a lot of that is just the environment that he's in, the situation he's on. I go back – Nick Castellanos a couple years ago with the Tigers was having a horrible year. Because Detroit was dreadful, and as soon as he got out of Detroit, I think he went to Cincinnati and turned it around almost instantly, started playing better. Some of those guys I like as players, but I don't think they're great fits here. Jarren Duran, outfielder for the Red Sox, not having a great year, but he's another left-handed batter. Like they've got plenty of those guys right now, and same with Cedric Mullins. Was better in the past. Baltimore's probably going to be a seller at the deadline this year, but another left-handed batter. So, if anything, I think you have to try and find a right-handed batter because all the right-handed batters the Guardians have are the guys that aren't hitting right now. Lane Thomas, David Fry, Jonathan Rodriguez. So if they're going to stick to this platoon type thing, Marcell Ozuna is a guy from Atlanta who's a little bit older, veteran, right-handed bat. But Luis Robert, to me, makes the most sense because I think he fills the need in center field as well. I think you can put him in the lineup every day and leave him there and stop some of the platoon nonsense. And he, again, not having a great year, but a change of environment I think would be a massive boost for him.
Ozuna's the one that stands out for me. I mean, the Braves stink right now.
Yeah.
They're probably going to move on from him. He is older. I think he's 34.
Yeah.
But the guy's played in the field before, but now he's primarily a DH, which is where the Guardians have kind of it's wide open. I mean, they've been Santana and Manzardo have been DHing.
I think they need to move Santana at the deadline. They can buy and sell. I've said that before. I know he's one of their better, but he's
I'd rather
just
have this guy than
up.
Santana right now.
Oh yeah.
Well, he'd be a right-handed bat, but they just need to free up the first base DH logjam right now that they have with Manzardo, with David Fry, Carlos Santana. If they could move off of Santana and sort of free up some more at-bats. I don't know that they're going to do that, but I think you can buy and sell. That's sort of the thing now, especially with teams like the Guardians and Rays and teams in those positions.
Ozuna's on a final year of his deal, so if they did make a trade for Ozuna,
it's a rental.
It'd be a half-year rental, which may make the price palatable for the Guardians who have been hesitant to give up prospects before. When you look at that list, I understand why Jeff put all those guys as potential fits for Cleveland. They need bats.
They're all outfielders.
The one guy I kind of like, though, is Taylor Ward from Los Angeles, who we talked about at last year's deadline, Jason. You guys kind of put me on to who Taylor Ward can be. He's got 19 homers this year. I know the average isn't very high, but you'd be replacing a guy with a terrible average and no power for a guy with a terrible average and real power.
Be nice to have someone with 19 home runs.
Right? Like, I'd be lying to say I'm super familiar with Taylor Ward's game, but He's put up 25 home runs last season. He's on pace to surpass that number again this season. He's playing on a Los Angeles team that's mildly competitive at best, Jason, if we're going to give Luis Robert the benefit of the doubt. I know the White Sox are a much worse organization right now than where the Angels are. But if we think Robert getting out of a bad situation, coming into a better situation could help boost his numbers, I have to believe that same could be said for a guy like Taylor Ward. And I don't think his price would be nearly as high as a Luis Robert or a Jarren Duran or someone of that caliber. And he does have one more year of control after this.
And see, that's why I think Ward's price would be higher than. I don't think Robert has much trade value. Listen, I'd be fine with
even
Ward.
at this point.
Yeah,
because he's the best player on that list. You would think,
Who?
right?
Which one?
Well, Duran would be one, then Robert would be two, probably.
I think Robert. I think his value is lower than.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, just because he's having such a bad year, and there's 2 team options on Robert after this year at $20 million. I think $20 million each. I don't know if the Guardians are going to pick those up, but you could pick one up and flip them. You could pick it up and trade them if he bounces back this year. And if he doesn't bounce back, then you decline the option. I'm fairly familiar with Taylor Ward. He'd be a fine fit. I do think the price would probably be a little bit higher on him. I don't think he's making as much as Robert. I could be wrong on that. I don't know his contract off the top of my head. But power source averages are what they are in baseball today. No one really looks at batting averages anymore. It's kind of annoying. But
the Guardians put OPS on the lineup in the
I
scoreboard,
noticed
which
that.
is I appreciate that.
Yeah, I noticed that. I think they just started doing that this year.
It is this year, yeah.
And it is sort of the new way in baseball. It's far more about OPS than it is about batting average.
Are you surprised at how few guys have batting averages over 250 now? And 250
Yeah.
I use as an intentional, because it used not to be very high, and now 250 is like, this guy can play.
The OGs absolutely hate it. I was at spring training last year, and I talked to Eric Davis for the story on switch hitting that I did last year. And wasn't even asking about this, and Eric went right to guys today can't hit. They don't know how to hit. Everybody's just trying to lift the ball. It's all about launch angle. Nobody knows how to hit anymore. Joey Gallo could have had a nice career for himself, but he listened to the wrong people, and all he wanted to do was hit home runs. And now look at him. I've heard Will Clark go on and on. Again, Will was a phenomenal hitter in the 80s. And talking about the way that they teach hitting now, and I think we talked about this a couple weeks ago with Teacher Man, one of the guys out there, Aaron Judge's swing coach, and the way that he teaches snap your wrist and sort of hit the catcher in the helmet on your backswing, like snap down and then spin and pivot through. And it's just all about loft and getting the ball in the air. And Will Clark's point is you can't hit a high fastball. If you're doing this, how are you ever going to get on top of a high fastball? But it's the way that a lot of kids today are being taught and have been taught for the last probably 10 years or so, which means today's younger major leaguers are following this. And that's why you see averages 190, 200, 210, 220, 230. I mean, now if you're hitting 260, that seems high.
Seems very high. Ward, by the way, makes $8 million this year and is arbitration eligible next season before becoming an unrestricted free agent.
I think the high price is going to be higher on him than it is on a guy like Robert.
And when you pull up that list one more time, Jason, you know this way better than I do, so I'm going to defer to you here. But when you look at this list, to get any of these guys, I mean, are we talking? I mean, and by the way, this was listed, the order of this, according to Jeff Passan, in terms of how high he rated these guys. Duran was his number 2 overall trade target on the market. The rest of the guys were in that order in one capacity or the next. What do you think it would take to get these guys if they did want to?
Duran is a very good player. He's not having as good of a year this year as he did last year. He's mid in the outfield at best. But again, he's another left-handed hitting outfielder.
No, I'm saying, what do you think the price would be, just so we have an idea of what it would take to acquire one of these 6 guys if the Guardians decide?
I mean, it's going to take a top 10 prospect for any of those guys, probably. I mean, would you deal CJ Kayfus for Luis Robert?
You tell me. You know the Guardians better than Dustin.
I mean, I would. Yeah, I would. Just because Kayfus is the natural first baseman, Manzardo, I think, is going to have that spot locked up for quite a while. And yeah, there's still DH available, but part of the reason the Guardians are in the spot is because they don't ever deal their top prospects. And I mean, maybe maybe Kafis is a bad example. It would probably be someone lower. It would probably be like a double-A guy, a guy in the first baseman at Lake County right now. I forget his name.
Ralphie Velasquez.
Ralphie, yeah. It might be someone
that
like
pull.
that. Yeah, that was a great pull by him.
Literally, I thought he was a catcher.
Hell of a pull.
So I think I still think that this is a team because of where the pitching staff is, because of where the bullpen is. I would be willing to go in and buy on this year and sell. Like, again, I would trade Carlos and create an asset where there wasn't one, and then flip and use one or two minor league prospects to go get an outfielder who you can plug in the lineup every day. Who'd they give up in the Lane Thomas trade? It was a significant, I can't remember now.
Pena.
Yeah, he was a pretty significant, he was top 10 guy in the rankings, and Lane Thomas was not one of the top names on the trade market, and that's still what it cost them. So it would probably cost them something like that again.
For a guy lower on the list than Robert, let's say what's about Adolis Garcia, by the way? Because wasn't he the World Series MVP 2 years ago?
Garcia has not been good the last couple of years. He had a pretty poor year last year. He hasn't been great this year. I think he's more at the end of his career than he is at the beginning. Certainly, he's more at the tail end. I don't love him.
He was the guy with the giant head that won World Series MVP, right? That is him.
I don't love him as a player anymore. He would not cost, because I don't know what his contract is. I don't know what he's got left on his deal. He's got to be close to free agency. He's got to be really close. But he would cost you less probably than certainly than a Duran type or one of those guys.
He also, on this list, had Emmanuel Clase listed as the 12th best trade target available, and mentioned the obvious teams, the Dodgers, the Yankees, the Tigers as potential fits. Clase would get a bigger haul back than it would take to get any of those guys, correct?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes. I mean, I think they've been open to trade him for a couple of years. I just don't think that – I think they've set the Guardians are famous for setting a very high price on their guys. Like, they set a price point, and then they wait for you to meet it. And if teams don't want to meet it, then they very rarely do they budge off their ask or come down very far off their ask.
I hate to sound like bull, because that's always a dangerous thing. It's a very dangerous situation to be in, but if you're not going to play the prospects, you're not going to trade the prospects, why do you even have a farm system? Right? Like, if you're barely going to call these guys up, and we're going to have Kafis and DeLauder still in AAA, destroying AAA pitching, and you're scared to part ways with those guys to get better proven major league hitters, like, what's the point?
Well, I think the problem is the Rays are really good at identifying who their guys are that they're going to build around and then trading the rest. Kyle Manzardo was a trade guy. That was not a guy they were going to build around. That was a guy that they marked as expendable. And the Guardians, particularly with all these middle infielders that they've had, they have not been able to identify who are the guys that we want to build around and who are the guys who are expendable, in part because none of them really emerged. How many times have they gone back and forth between Rocchio and Arias trying to figure it out? Freeman they finally gave up on and moved on to bring in Nolan Jones, a guy they had previously given up on. But they just haven't been able to establish these are our core guys, and now these are the guys that we can move, and as a result, a lot of their prospects have lost value.
It's crazy. So,
and now you get like Angel Martinez, middle infielder, now playing outfield, sort of bouncing around.
Does he have value?
No, not. I mean, some, but he's not going to. I don't think you're going to trade Angel Martinez and get one of those guys on that list. I don't think it would take that plus something else.
It's crazy. So. All right, Ant, where we go next?
We are going back to basketball for our basketball guys, but if you didn't get enough baseball talk today, we got one more topic, and we have the Ultimate Guardians hosted by Adam the Bull and Zach Meisel every Monday morning, pretty much around 9 to 10 o'clock in the morning. You can go check them out and subscribe to our channel to get notified when they do go live. Mike, you ready for this?
Let's do it. We saw some crazy trades in the NBA yesterday. The Celtics unloaded Drew Holiday and Kristaps Porzingis to get under the second apron of the luxury tax. We saw Jordan Poole head over to New Orleans. C.J. McCollum went to Washington. We saw the Desmond Bane deal in the past. Ant had asked me, with all the movement, and we also saw, there's another trade that I'm forgetting, but there's been a bunch of NBA trades the last couple of days. Ant had asked me, with the Celtics moves yesterday, with the Magic move yesterday, with the report that Phoenix had called the Cavs for Kevin Durant and Darius Garland, some sort of conversation in that realm. if you think the Cavs were done big game hunting, Jason, and I told them, okay, well, at least discuss it. Jason, do you think the Cavs are done, or Dustin, do you think the Cavs are done big game hunting to start off here?
Yeah, I do, just because it would take them pretty much giving up on Evan Mobley at this point in time, and they're not going to do that, I don't think. Mobley, I mean, I don't love Mobley as much as most people do. I would rather have Giannis than
I think we all would
than Evan Mobley.
In that regard.
But it would take a lot to get him, and I just don't think this organization is going to do that right now. What do you think it would take to get Giannis, by the way? Obviously, it's a package centered around Evan Mobley.
We could, from a financial standpoint, it is so incredibly difficult because, A, they can't aggregate salaries to get to Giannis unless they got so much more money over Giannis's contract that then they ended up under the second apron, which means you'd have to dump 2 or 3 guys to get under the second apron before you could start that conversation. Then it would start with Mobley and his extension, which kicks in, which I think is $43 million. Giannis is making $55-ish next year. So it'd be Mobley plus something to then get to Milwaukee. But then if you do that trade and you aggregate, then you're hard capped at the second apron, which means you have to fill out the rest of your roster under the second apron, which means you would have $12-ish million to sign 8 guys, which is barely enough to do 8 veteran minimum guys or however whatever that number is. So it's incredibly difficult from a financial standpoint. If Giannis were to say, I want out, but I want to stay in the East, could Cleveland be a possible destination? Could it happen? It could, but it's like jumping through 15 hula hoops at once.
Yeah, I don't see it happen. First of all, I think you have to have a conversation with Giannis. Do you want to be here? If you don't want to be here, then it's really hard to make that trade. So that's number one. And then number two, what would you take? What would you give up? I give up close to anything to get him. He's an MVP candidate. As much as I believe in Evan Mobley and believe that he has the potential and the runway to turn into one of those guys.
Giannis
is already there.
Yeah.
And he's still pretty close to the prime of his career, and he's under team control. I think he's got 2 years left on his deal and then a player option. So, and that sort of fits in that window that we keep talking about. The Cavs have 2 years. They have 2 years before they sort of wind up in the same spot that you see Boston in right now. So if that means Evan Mobley, then, so be it. But it's not that simple, as Mike alluded to. It's a lot more complicated than that. And I can't even sit here. I'm not going to sit here and pretend to know the path that it would take to do it because it's a lot of moving parts. I think that the Cavs are who they are. This is the team they're more than likely going to bring back. I think they are probably listening and should be listening on a lot of things. But ultimately, it's so hard to make big moves right now because of where they've positioned themselves that I just don't think, is it possible? Sure. Is it realistic? I don't think so.
To give you like the actual names in theory to make a deal like this work, so it's all would be for Giannis, right?
Yeah.
You'd have to dump Wade and Okoro to get under the second apron, right? So that they're gone. Then in theory, just to make the money work, I'm not saying this, but just saying to get to that $50-ish million, Garland, and then either Strus or Hunter, something like that. And this is if you're not including Mobley. If you want to switch Mobley for Garland, sure, but basically that money works.
Okay.
And then you'd have a bunch of veteran minimums to fill out the rest of your roster. So at a minimum, you'd be losing Okoro, Wade, Hunter, Garland for Giannis, just to make the money work as a starter. So then you're filling out the rest of your roster with minimum guys. It could happen. And for Giannis, like I think you break down all walls for Giannis, but it's a lot easier said than it is to actually complete.
It really comes down to what Milwaukee wants.
Yeah.
And if I'm Milwaukee, I want Evan over anything else that the Cavs have. So making the money match, actually, I don't think is that hard because, Dean Wade is not as hard to dump as Okoro is. Dean's only got 1 year left, $6.5 million. He's a big who can shoot, who can rebound and defend. Like, there's a market for him. If they need to move off that money, they can. And then I believe you can. Am I messing this up? You could just attach Okoro and Mobley together to make the money work on Giannis.
Well,
because it would be right around $54 million.
But just dumping Dean doesn't get you under the second apron.
So you'd have to dump Okoro into a separate, because Okoro with Mobley gets you to Giannis. But I see what you're saying. But so this is sort of the machinations that
that's
we're
by the
talking
way,
about.
that's before you re-sign Jerome and Merrill. So all those guys are gone too. By the way, they're out of the equation.
Yeah, I mean, you see, basically, you're going to have a team of Donovan Mitchell and Giannis, and then a bunch of just slappies.
And Darius.
And Darius in this instance,
yeah. So it's still Giannis. Like, you're going to give yourself a chance, and you still have Donovan and Darius.
Yeah, but all these teams this year were doing it with like 6-7 guys.
And that's the one thing Sam Presti said after the championship I saw, is that he believes the future of the NBA is more in depth.
Yeah.
And that goes back to the conversation we've had multiple times where it was such a top-heavy league and a star-driven league. Is he right? Are they ahead of the curve on this, and it is more about depth? You can say it's about depth, but when they get to the finals, were they playing 9 and 10 guys in Game 7? No.
Played 7, sprinkled in 8, but both rotations shortened up a little bit.
Yeah. So you can say it's about depth, and it is about depth to get you there, but in the moment, you still want your best guys on the floor. It's always going to be about playing your best guys in championship rounds.
If the Cavs are going to still big game hunt, whether it's Giannis, one name I would look at potentially is Jaylen Brown. We talked about the Celtics dumping all the salary. Are they done? The Celtics got under the second apron, but they're still a tax team. If they want to completely reset their books, they have to get under the luxury tax line. There could be with another 15 different financial hoops to jump through a Jaylen Brown potential trade. Kobe Altman in the past has operated in the shadows on these kind of deals. It's been for players that, frankly, we didn't even know were on the market, and next thing you know, they end up in Cleveland. So, I mentioned Jaylen Brown, I mentioned Giannis, both highly unlikely, but it could be another star that no one's even thought of yet. That could be the real target if Kobe and the front office are big game hunting. But as Jason and I talked about on the Cavs show this morning, if there's a deal out there that Cleveland loves, that they think makes their team better, first apron, second apron, third apron, fourth apron, fifth apron, sixth apron, be damned. They'll find the way to make the move. But just because Boston was able to get under the second apron yesterday doesn't mean all the ramifications and the fear of the second apron is.
But Boston got under the second. I should have made this point this morning. Boston got under the second apron by trading some key pieces.
Oh, that was my point. It's two different situations. Boston's end goal was not to get better. Boston's end goal was to shed money.
Disassemble.
The Cavs' end goal is to get better and win a championship. So looking at what Boston did and saying, oh, Boston did it, the Cavs can do it too. Well, the Cavs can get under the second apron easily, but it involves dumping Jared Allen and dumping off Cora Wade and
guys
stuff
you need, guys that
doesn't
help you
actually
get
make
here.
you better.
Yeah, it's two different
worlds.
worlds.
The Celtics turned Porzingis into Niang. I love George. George's my guy. He's going home to play in Boston. He's thrilled about the move.
Of course.
But he ain't Kristaps Porzingis.
No.
We did a show a couple weeks ago, the Cavs show, where we talked about the core of the next 5 years out, and I picked Atlanta. And now they went and added Porzingis. I'm not saying that's a move for 5 years from now. Who knows if he'll even be upright in 5 years. He's been hurt so much, but I really like what Atlanta's doing. They're long, athletic, they get up and down the floor, and now they add Porzingis to that. He's got a lot of long injury history, but if you get him out there for the right games, man, that is a great fit with Trae Young.
If they had any other point guard but Trae Young, I'd be all in on the Hawks.
Oh, you can't stand Trae Young?
I just don't think he plays winning basketball in any form, fashion, shape. He just doesn't.
Yeah.
I'll be sadly proven wrong, but I'm pretty sure I'll be right on this one.
I mean, it's funny how quickly things can flip, because right now I think you can remove Boston. I think you remove Milwaukee from this. Who are the top teams in the East right now? Cleveland,
Orlando,
Atlanta,
Knicks.
Indiana. You got to put
Knicks.
Indiana in there, and the Knicks.
And Detroit.
I mean, look how fast that's flipped from where it was a year ago. And who knows? I mean, 6 months from now, we may have a completely different view on this.
It would not surprise me if Detroit made some sort of big move tonight.
Where are they picking? Do you know?
Don't even know. Don't even care. I don't think they don't have a lottery pick. They're somewhere in the 18 to 22-ish range.
Right, yeah.
But that's a team that has cap space, which is huge because you can take on some extra parts.
Mm-hmm.
Future assets to deal any young pieces. Maybe a Jaden Ivey who was hurt in the middle of last season, who was playing well, by the way, then got hurt. I thought they were going to be on the Durant deal. Durant clearly didn't want to go to Detroit. He wanted to go to Houston. That's why he ended up in Houston. But they're a team that I think has the assets to make a gigantic swing if they want to. And they've been so bad for so long. At some point, you just got to say, screw it, let's go.
Yeah.
I could see Detroit being a team that makes a big push for a name either tonight or sometime before the start of next season.
A lot of movements coming this summer. We've already seen it, and there's more moves to come. It's going to be a flurry of transactions, I think, in this NBA offseason as teams sort of adapt to this new world.
Do you think we're going to get a lot of draft night chaos?
Boy, I'd like that.
I haven't followed it closely enough to give you an educated answer on that, but it's possible. I think there's, just because of the names that are out there and just because of the way teams are maneuvering right now and some of what's available out there, yeah, I think there could be.
Can I give you 2 teams to watch tonight?
You just did one.
Well, 3 teams to watch. The Thunder have 15 guys on under contract for next season.
Their whole
already.
entire team is
Their
back.
entire team's under contract.
Yeah.
You cannot have 16 contracts.
So and they got 2 ones.
Yeah, they have 15 and 24. They're going to trade into I would almost bet whatever the max amount you could that the Thunder end up in the lottery packaging 15, 24, and a future pick to get into the top 10.
But who's the team that wants out of the top 10? That wants to drop that low? That's the thing.
I can name a couple.
Okay.
And then the Nets, who have 5 first-round picks.
That's nuts.
They have 5 picks tonight.
And they still have cap space.
Yep.
I don't remember now offhand how much after yesterday.
50. No, because they took Terrence Mann back, and he makes, what's 47 divided by 3? 15 and a half. So they have 35 million in cap space, 37 million-ish in cap space.
So they could be.
And 5 first-round picks. They have 8, a couple in the teens, and then 3 in the 20s. So 18, and then 22, 26, and 27. They're going to try moving up, whether it's from 8 to 3 or 4,
Yeah.
or from 17 plus 22 and 26 to 12 or 13. You can't have 5 rookies on your team.
No.
It's not possible.
Mike, you think the Thunder are going to repeat next year?
I think they should be absolutely considered the favorites.
Yeah. Heavy favorites
yeah,
or just the favorites?
Heavy favorites, just considering the uncertainty in the East with 2 of their top guys out. I know the West's a gauntlet, but those guys are young, and I didn't think they even played that well in the playoffs.
They didn't.
They got out-rebounded in 3 of the 4
They didn't
series.
play that well in Game 7.
They were the 13th best three-point shooting team in the playoffs. I thought their offense got stagnant at times. It was way too much ISO for SGA and Jalen Williams. If some of those role guys can take a next step offensively, if Chet Holmgren can become a little more consistent.
Yeah, because he wasn't with him the whole year, Chet, right?
He only played 30 regular
came back from
games,
injury,
Yeah, he was hurt.
I think they have a chance to be really, 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 really good again.
I would make them the favorite in the West, but if I had to pick right now, I mean, first of all, let's wait and see what these teams look like come October, because I still think there's more movement to go.
Yeah.
The West is
good.
The West is good. The West is really, really good. I think they would have a harder time getting out of the West than they would probably winning the whole thing again. So I don't know that I would pick them. They would not be my pick to repeat, just because I'm just going on history. It's been, 7 years?
7 years, yeah. They started, or the FanDuel way too early championship odds next year came out, Dustin. They were plus 220.
Were they really?
They should
which was
be.
the shortest odds
Still.
for any team to repeat
And
in
they
the last
should be.
decade.
Yeah, they should be. But
the Cavs were second, by the way.
you just never know with
Really?
injuries. They do have the depth you would think to withstand, even if it's a key guy.
It's really hard to repeat.
yeah.
It's really, 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 really hard to repeat.
Yeah.
Does Halliburton's going to miss the entire year, right?
all year.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah. Yeah. So
Yep.
I mean that sort of changes some things for the Cavs, right? I mean, if you're not really worried about the Pacers without Halliburton, are you?
I'm not taking the Pacers lightly ever again. If Rick Carlisle is the coach,
You're both
mean,
right.
they're-
You're both
they're-
right.
they're-
They would be in my top half, but they're not.
You saw that team in the second half.
Yeah, the Cavs are to me, the Cavs are the favorite right now in the East.
Yeah.
And it's just so funny because we've talked about this before. I just feel like the public discourse around the Cavs is so awful compared to what their reality is. It was an awful end. It was a horrible end. But
it's a historic season.
they're still a really good team.
Yeah.
And to me, they're still.
Do you think
they're
that
the
they
favorites.
lose that series to the Pacers if Garland doesn't have the banged up toe?
I think if they're healthy, I think they win the series.
So do I.
And I mean, we're probably in the minority on that, but I think if they're healthy, they win the series.
Yeah, I think they go to the finals.
I mean, if they just get the ball across half court in game 2, it's a different series.
Yeah.
Because now when you get blown out in game 4,
It's 2-2.
you're 2-2 coming home. You're like, all right, cool, that's fine. We got home court. But as it was, because you lost game 2 and the way they lost game 2, you get blown out in 4, and now you're down 3-1 coming home, and it feels like it's all over.
Right.
So game 2, man, it's
crucial.
It was the swing.
Ant, you had a question?
Yeah, I'm just curious. Who of the top 10 picks do you actually think will trade out? Looking at these 10 teams, I feel like they all want to be up there.
I need to see
Yeah, I mean, a lot of these guys and
Can we
teams.
read them off to you if you want?
Yeah, like,
Jason?
so Dallas isn't trading out of 1. They're taking Cooper Flagg.
Yep.
San Antonio is going to take Dylan Harper. 3's the Sixers. I can see the Sixers trading out of 3. I absolutely can see them trading out. Now, I don't think they trade back to 14, but possibly to 8 with Brooklyn. If they could get Cam Johnson 2 future firsts and 8 for 3, I think that's a move that would work. 4 is the Hornets, correct?
Yeah.
They're probably not trading out. They just need talent.
I could see Utah being aggressive at 5.
I could see Utah being aggressive at 5 as well, going either way, either picking up more assets for the future, because the number 1 prospect in next year's class is a kid named A.J. DeBonsa, who's committed to BYU. He's had a $7 million BYU NIL deal, who's from Utah. You know how hard it is to get players who want to come to Utah? Well, this kid was born in Utah. This kid is going to college in Utah. He could be the savior of Utah's franchise in theory, so you want as much ammo as possible to try and get him. So that's a team I could see. 6 is New Orleans, right? No, 6 is Washington.
Washington.
They're probably going to take a player.
They should trade out. If you're looking like the Thunder, who's the partner for them, I think it's 6 or 7, Washington or New Orleans. Both are such a mess right now. They could use the extra draft capital. I could see either one of those teams being the teams that would try and dip out.
And New Orleans, who just made the trade, C.J. McCollum for Jordan Poole, they took on a much, money-wise it was similar, but Poole has 2 more years under contract compared to McCollum. So getting those future assets could be beneficial to their cap sheet down the road. Brooklyn's going to want to move up, not down.
Right.
Toronto's at 9, if I remember correctly. Mm-hmm. Who knows what Toronto would want to do, and who's at 10?
Houston just traded it to Phoenix.
I mean, Phoenix may try and acquire even more assets considering where they're at. So there are a couple options, but I would expect, like I said, the Nets are going to potentially be active. I think the Sixers are the number 1 trade-around candidate, and the Thunder, they can't draft 2 first-round picks. And by the way, not only do they have 2 first-round picks, they took Topic last year with the 14th pick.
That's insane.
Who, if he was healthy, would have been a top 5 pick. Only fell to 14 because he was hurt and wasn't going to play all season. So they have a top 5 pick from last year who's now going to be healthy again next season. I don't even know if they have minutes for him. Like, they're loaded. And I'm pissed off at the Thunder now. Where are we going next? Shout out to Sam
We're going back to football for this next topic. But before we do that, I want to remind everybody about Monarch Money. Have you guys ever checked your bank account and wondered, where did all my money go? Between dining out, online shopping, and entertainment, it's easy to lose track. And that's where Monarch Money comes in. It's your personal CFO giving you full visibility and control over your finances. Monarch Money isn't just a budgeting app. It's a complete financial command center. You can track all your accounts, investments, and spending in one place, so you stop just managing your money and you start building your wealth. When I moved out, I started using Monarch Money because I realized just how much I was spending on food delivery. Now I budget smarter and I save more. So to take control of your finances with Monarch Money, you can use code LOCKEDONNFL at monarchmoney.com for 50% off your first year. That's monarchmoney.com, code LOCKEDONNFL for half off your first year.
So Diontae Johnson did a podcast, and you picked out a quote from the podcast that you wanted us to react to, and it's about who Diontae Johnson thinks will win the Browns quarterback battle. So what did Diontae Johnson, the Browns' newest receiver, say when asked that question?
Yeah, we can take the quote full here, Steve. He said, I've been seeing Kenny going like right now with the ones, then Joe will come in, and I think they're probably going to roll with him just to see how he's coming off of Philly and having a Super Bowl. So I think they're going to stick with Kenny for the preseason, and then you know that they can live with Joe and what he brings to the table. So that got me thinking last night, does Diontae Johnson think that Kenny and Joe are both going to be here together? Like, with no mention of the rookies, it's been kind of an understanding that one of the veterans is going to go, and I'm curious to what your guys' thoughts on that are.
I've come around on that. I think all 4 quarterbacks are going to be on the roster.
I've said that before too. I think that one of the rookies ends up on a practice squad with the Browns. That's just my thought on it. The Pickett one, if one player is not on the roster, I think it'd be Pickett. But then you hear Diontae Johnson say that Kenny Pickett's going to be the starting quarterback. So I don't really know what to believe. I think there's certainly some bias in his commentary.
I mean, he played with Pickett in Pittsburgh.
Of course.
He had one of his more successful seasons with Pickett in Pittsburgh. Pickett likes to throw short passes, get the ball out of his hands quickly, which is exactly what Diontae Johnson does best as a route runner, create separation. So I can see why he favors Kenny Pickett, the guy he has some connection with, but I have no good feel, Jason. I would default to you from what you've heard on who you think will be the starting quarterback, and it seems that you keep thinking from who you've spoken to that the Browns are infatuated with something with Kenny Pickett.
I've been
might
on
get the first shot.
Yeah, I think it's Pickett, and but not because I think you guys are right. I think Diontae's probably siding up with the guy that he's most comfortable with or has a past relationship with. I don't know that I'd put a ton of stock into what Johnson said, but yet at the same time, that sort of aligns with where my thinking is on this. I think it's Kenny Pickett. Doesn't mean he's going to start 17 games. It does, and if he completely falls apart in training camp and looks terrible and Joe outplays him, then it'll be Joe. But I've been pretty consistent. Yeah, I thought Joe threw it the best from what we saw in OTAs. I thought Joe was the best pure passer out there, but I still think Kenny's going to win the job.
We've said time and time again that we need to see the rookie quarterbacks out there to get some chance to evaluate what they potentially could bring to this organization moving forward. Do the Browns have to give Kenny Pickett a shot like that to make that determination? Or could you see from your eyes in practice plus his footage from Pittsburgh, does he not need that same set of, I guess, game reps in this Cleveland system, Dustin, to make that evaluation?
No, I think he needs game reps to find out what this guy's going to bring to the table. You know, Flacco's been here before. You know what this guy can do in this offense. Pickett, this is a relatively unknown. You got a guy who was a first-round pick who, you know, still has some upside because he hasn't played a ton in this league. So I definitely think they're going to want to see this guy play meaningful reps. You know, preseason obviously, and then into the regular season. You want to see what this guy can do before you cut him loose. Flacco is Flacco's going to be the default starter at some point, unless one of these guys plays. If one of these guys plays amazing, like Shador or Gabriel could play great too. Who the hell knows? But if one of those guys plays great, it's a different story. I think it'll end up being Flacco as the starter for Week 1.
I think Flacco is the safety blanket.
Yeah,
I think he's like I said. I think Pickett's the starter, and if they come to realize that the rookies aren't prepared, they can't do it, and they don't like what they see out of Pickett, then I think they go to Joe. But I just don't see the benefit in playing a 40-year-old Joe Flacco. I just don't think there's any upside to it. So I think he's here in case all else fails, and then okay, Joe, go clean up the mess.
It's just, if you're trying to win games and you think Flacco's your best shot to win games, then you have to play Joe Flacco. But it's counterproductive to everything else it feels like the team's trying to accomplish this season. Like you have one strand, we need to win games. We went 3-14 last year. We got to rebuild some winning culture. Like that's going this way. And then we need to evaluate the young quarterbacks. We need to see if Shador, Dillon, if Kenny can be that long-term answer at the position. So we don't have to use one of our first 2-round picks or trade that second first-round pick plus our current pick to move up to get the quarterback. You have two trains going in opposite directions that are kind of pulling against each other at one time. If you start Flacco and if he's your safety blanket, then once you pull it out, there's no kind of putting it back. And that's why I think Pickett, if he starts and he's not good, then you put in Flacco and it buys more time for the rookie quarterbacks to come along.
They put themselves in a kind of a tough spot, to be honest with you, because, there's only so many reps to go around in the preseason, and when you've got two rookies who are drafted relatively high, and the one who was drafted lowest looks like he's the best so far.
And the fans want him the most, too.
So it's going to put you in a tough spot to are you going to take reps away from Dillon Gabriel in the preseason? You're going to take reps away from Kenny Pickett? Flacco, we all just said, is kind of the default guy because he knows what he's doing. I'm be very, very fascinated to see how this whole thing plays out in terms of how they divvy up these reps for these guys once these exhibition games and these scrimmages, intra-squad practices happen. How many reps will Gabriel, Shador, and Pickett get versus Flacco?
I asked this question yesterday, and you guys weren't here, so I'm going to ask you this question now. But G. Bush, Tyvis, and Bull all opined on it. It's hard enough to develop one young quarterback at a time. Like it takes an entire, it's like raising a child. It takes an entire village, the coaching staff, the offensive coordinators, quarterback coach. All of that goes into turning quarterback prospect into hopefully the pillar of your franchise moving forward. When you have two guys, and even maybe three if you want to include Kenny Pickett in that scenario, is there enough resources and reps and time from Stefanski, Reese, Musgrave, the whole offensive staff, to nurture two and develop two quarterbacks at once?
No. Probably not.
How many reps does the starter get in a game week?
90 in practice.
In practice, 99%, 98%,
90.
Okay, so it was a little lower than I thought, but still.
Yeah, but it's a lot. It's most of them.
Yeah. So how are you going to do? I mean, when you're trying to get two quarterbacks ready, you're not going to have either quarterback ready. So, but again, no franchise ever tries to develop two quarterbacks at once for the long-term outlook. Like, it just doesn't happen. You may stumble into it, like a Kirk Cousins RG3 type situation where they came in together, one got hurt, and the other one just sort of continued to progress. But they weren't trying to develop both of those guys at the same time. This is a one-year stopgap with the Browns. I am looking at this as hey, we've got a year to kill before we can go get the guy we want. We might as well bring these guys in and see if we run into anything. And if one of these guys starts to surge ahead, I think you'll see them throw all their resources into that guy. But no, you can't develop two or three. I think that's crazy because there's such a finite amount of time, and these teams hardly ever even practice anymore. They spend a ton of time in the film room, but actually on the field, in pads, it's so limited now to what it was even 10 years ago, 15 years ago. So there's just not enough reps and there's not enough time. And I don't even think that the guy that they believe is the long-term future is here right now.
It's a
Probably not.
They're hoping that they struck lightning in a bottle with Pickett, Shador, or Dylan Gabriel. But until then, they're just chipping and putting and buying time until they get the guy who they really want, whoever that is, at the top of the first round next year, until proven otherwise. That's why I said before, like, when they left the draft, it was very clear what they were telling you. I don't care what they actually said. What they were telling you was our quarterback is in next year's draft.
Yeah.
So now it's on these guys to change their minds. They have 10 months to do it.
With limited reps. And a 4 quarterback competition.
Until one of them starts to emerge, and then you throw all your resources behind them.
What do you think it would take to reach that emerging status? Is it something we see in practice?
I don't think we will know. I mean, Dustin, you can answer that better than me. I think the coaches will know it and the players will know it based on practice. But we don't have enough access to see it.
Yeah, those guys will have 1,000 reps of seeing it in practice where they know, oh, okay, this guy just definitely has the momentum. He's making all the right decisions. He's making the right throws. Like, he's just executing at a high level. Players know. Coaches know. I mean, you can't hide it. The film don't lie.
Yep.
Was there ever a time in your career, Dustin, where maybe it wasn't the backup versus the starter, but it was two guys competing for a backup spot, or not even necessarily a quarterback, could be another position, where it was just evident from the get-go, that dude's better than this dude? Yeah,
I told Bolt this story years ago when we were in Buffalo. It was like Trent Edwards, I think Fitzpatrick might have been there at the time, or there was another quarterback that was sort of competing, and then there was a kid, Jabron Hamden from Indiana. We played against him.
Yeah, I remember him.
Yeah. And he was like probably the best quarterback we had. Never played.
Really?
But like we were all like laughed about it because like, dude, you know, the best guy is the third guy.
Wow. Why did he never get a chance?
I don't know. Because he was like a late round pick, you know, or undrafted.
Were you?
And we had a Trent Edwards was a third round pick, so they gave him the opportunities.
Yeah. Were you there for Zwick and Troy?
Yeah, so they were both freshmen, redshirt freshmen, on the 02 team, and so I was with those guys for.
So 04.
Excuse me, no, they were not on. Was Troy on the 02 team, redshirt?
No, I don't think so. Well, maybe, but like 04
Either way,
was like.
But 04 was my senior year,
yeah.
and it was Troy and Justin.
What was that like watching those guys? Could you tell one better than the other? Because, I mean, Troy eventually took the job and ran with it, but could you tell earlier on?
I mean, it was close early on. In fact, Justin probably was the better, like, prototypical quarterback.
Yeah.
But just didn't make the plays in the big game. And then obviously the Texas thing the next year.
Yeah.
That happened. That was unfortunate for his career. But, yeah, I mean, it was close.
Yeah. That's interesting.
And you had a question?
Yeah, I was just sitting here thinking about the resources going through the 4 quarterbacks. throw the Browns aside or anything, it's kind of sucks that they're almost setting some of these rookies up for failure, because if they don't have the resources and they got drafted here, like, what do you do if you're Dylan Gabriel or Sanders and you know you can do it at that point? Like, I know you have to prove it, and you can prove it in camp and everything, but where do you go from there? Are the Browns setting these guys up for failure?
I mean, possibly, but you can't worry about that. Like, life's not fair.
Yeah.
You got 1 year. This is your opportunity, and these are not like guys who only started 1 year of college. They're 21 years old. They
both played at least 4 years of college.
I mean, Dylan's made over 60 starts. He's 24 years old. Shador's 23. These are men, and they've got a ton of experience. So, this is your opportunity to be an NFL starting quarterback. Take advantage of it. And if it is unfair to them, I'm sorry, life isn't fair. But where else would you rather be? In Cleveland with an opportunity to win the starting job, or would you rather be a backup to Lamar Jackson, where you're not, barring injury, you are the backup and you are not going to get an opportunity? So at least these guys have an opportunity in front of them.
I was going to say that. It's a weird quarterback situation to be drafted into. I'm sure Dylan wishes Shador wasn't here. I'm sure Shador wishes Dylan wasn't there, so they would be the lone rookie.
Sure.
But as far as quarterback competitions go, it is an open quarterback competition. And how many truly open quarterback competitions are there across the league right now? 2? Cleveland.
I mean, I guess.
And New Orleans.
I was going to say New Orleans.
I mean, if you could name another one, maybe I'm not. The Giants, they don't know. Okay. So 3. So, like, if you're not on one of those 3 teams and you're a rookie quarterback, you ain't having a chance to start.
Right.
Like, you're competing to be the backup and not the third string. And if I was a guy, especially like Dylan Gabriel, who played 6 years of college at 3 different schools, has been in every different system you can imagine, and a guy like Shador who started in HBCU, went to Colorado, had all this success, and I think I can play, I want to go have a chance to compete. So on the one hand, and you may be right, in a way it's setting them up to fail. On the other hand, it's giving them an immediate chance to succeed in ways other franchises couldn't give them.
And this isn't the end. Even if it doesn't work out for those guys here in Cleveland, they'll get other opportunities. They can latch on with other teams, and they'll get other chances. So if it doesn't work here, there's 31 other teams that eventually, now again, you may not have that opportunity right away to be a starter like you were here, but it also might be a better fit for you depending on where you land.
And we talked about the fit too. Stefanski and Shador, particular author of the draft, Todd McShay, said, that was a perfect fit. I think more than organizationally plays a part in it, but more than necessarily your talent, where you get drafted is so. You've talked about this a million times. Like, where you get drafted is equally as important as how early you get drafted. Yeah. Sometimes it's better to be a second-round pick in the right spot than a late first-round pick in the wrong spot. And those guys who fall into the right spots traditionally have much more successful, prolonged careers than a guy who could flame out with more talent, who was with the wrong coach, who never was able to maximize his talent.
Wrong coach, wrong team, wrong organization. I mean, guys all the time.
I mean, you were in that situation.
I felt like I was in a situation like that. I mean, I don't want to make tons of excuses, but I went to a team that was like really polar opposites of what Ohio State was when I was there. In terms of the guys and the team chemistry and character and all those things. It just wasn't really a bunch of good guys.
Yeah.
But I didn't fit in, and I think I had a bad attitude about it, and probably ended up getting my ass out of there because of that very reason.
I mean, what kind of career does Tim Couch have if he goes to Philly?
Exactly.
And if Donovan McNabb is drafted number 1 overall, does he get the same injuries? Does he have the career that he had? That's an easy. I think Donovan was 4th in that draft. That's an easy 1-4 flip. You can't really. I think Achilles Smith went too. You can't really use that as an example, but Donovan and Tim, I've thought about that before. What kind of career would Tim Couch have had he gone to an established team?
Mm-hmm.
I mean, you could even look at like last year, for example. What if Jaden Daniels went 1, Caleb Williams goes 2?
Yeah.
I mean, does Jaden Daniels have that same success he had in Washington, in Chicago, with a coaching staff that clearly was not prepared and equipped to handle a young rookie franchise caliber quarterback? Does Caleb Williams with Cliff Kingsbury, his college OC, come in and light up the league like Jaden Daniels did, as opposed to going to Chicago where he had an offensive coordinator, which has been come out and confirmed that didn't even tell him what to watch on tape, like made him do it himself. So it's all about situation. So you could say on the one hand, I think it's fair to ask, like, are the Browns setting these guys up to fail? I think it's also presenting an opportunity that they may not be able to get elsewhere, which kind of creates this imperfect balance that is a 4-quarterback battle as we enter training camp.
Yeah, good perspective. It was just something I thought of.
Since it's 12:51 and we have 9 minutes left, can I tell you, I don't think my contacts are in. I can't see.
Well, you have your glasses.
How'd you drive here? Glasses?
No, well, these are reading glasses.
Oh.
But like my right eye is my
Does that look clear?
He can't even see the joke.
my right eye is my dominant eye, and I was having problems with my contact last night in the day.
Why don't you get LASIK, bro?
Years ago, I was not a good candidate. They told me because my
Okay.
astigmatism was so bad.
Got to be now.
But I mean, if I close my left eye, I can't read the chyron at the bottom of the screen.
Do you have one contact in or no contact?
Well, I think my left one is in because I can see that.
How do you not
How
have
do
a
you not
headache
know?
from that?
But I'm like, because I'm like, man,
You
everything's
sleep in
blurry.
your contacts?
No. But everything's been blurry all day, and I've been like trying to blink and spin it.
I've noticed you've been blinking a lot.
But I've been trying to like spin the contact, and that just occurred to me. Maybe it fell out. Maybe it's not in. Because it was bothering me this morning. I took it out and cleaned it again and put it back in. And now, see, this is why I've been going to like straight glasses more and more because I'm so freaking old now. I've got like the bifocals. You just can't tell. So these are just reading glasses. So if I have contacts, and I got to use reading glasses to like see up close. But the other glasses, my actual
The thick
glasses,
ones?
are better because I don't have to do this crap. But yeah, I don't think I can see.
Oh, well.
And let's.
Before we do super chats real quick.
Yeah, I was gonna say let's skip Bo Naylor. We'll hold Bo Naylor. for another day.
Friday morning, Austin Hedges is going to be at a bank signing jerseys. Should I go get my? Can I call out and go get my jersey signed Friday morning? I'm going to publicly ask for this.
Yeah.
For sure.
Yeah.
You should take a picture with. You should wear the jersey.
Yeah. What bank?
What's
what
the
bank
story
and
here
what time?
with the Austin Hedges thing?
Uh,
Because you guys are twins?
basically, when I started, we had like the same haircut, and everybody thought we looked like twins.
Yeah,
So
you guys
I've
do
never
look
met
like
him,
twins.
but
But you got a jersey?
I got a jersey for the bit, and then he immediately left the next year, and I just held on to the jersey.
And he came back.
And then he came back, and it's got the wrong number on it. But
Did you see in the game last night his throw down a second and Arias falling down?
No, I didn't see it because I was at AJ's game, so I
was-
caught some highlights today, but I didn't see.
I forget who was stealing, but Hedges throws down. It's a little offline, and Arias slips as he's getting his feet set. And as he's falling back, catches the ball and makes the tag in one motion. It was sweet. And
Oh,
with
wow.
his, platinum blonde,
Yeah.
flowy hair, it was like, you can't hit for shit, but that looks sweet.
I'll have to go back and
Like,
find
It was
it.
it was a very, very.
It's
very
all there with Arias. That's what's so
nice one.
frustrating.
He can't hit off speed. That's
He's got a great bat at times. He's got great power. He's got an absolute hose for an arm. Just hasn't been able to put it all together, man.
And what do we got for super chats?
we got 3. 2 of them here come from Skilly, who just renewed his membership for 31 months. So shout out to Skilly.
Shout out to Skilly.
OSU wrestling camp was for me, Coach Hellickson. I hope I'm saying that right. And Coach Ryan. I was an 8th grader, beat a senior, and slammed me on my shoulder and broke my collarbone. That was his moment of his remembrance. And then he also said for the quarterbacks, virtual reality training, like Jaden Daniels, hopes that the Browns are looking into doing that to help out with the distribution.
So about that, and I'm curious if you've done it for golf, if you've done it for tennis or anything. I don't think VR was around when you were at Ohio State to that capacity, was it?
No.
Okay. Jaden Daniels swears by these VR reps. Have you heard about this?
I mean, I think I know what you're talking about, where they're
It's a
wearing
immersive
the
helmet.
Oculus or
Yeah, yeah,
whatever.
yeah. And other quarterbacks have said, I don't like it, doesn't help. It has to be a real game rep for me as opposed to each their own. I totally understand. Some guys learn visually, some guys, not saying one way is right or wrong. Do you know if the Browns utilize that kind of technology? And
That I don't know.
And would you have when you were playing if it was available to you, Dustin?
For sure. Yeah. I mean, I think everyone would use the technology that we have now. I mean, professional golfers didn't have golf simulators in their homes, years ago. So as we develop more and more technology, absolutely.
I think it could be a great resource. The Haslam's will spend. They'll invest.
Oh, yeah.
I've used the cheap VR headsets. My girlfriend's dad has an Oculus VR headset. It's awesome. Playing golf on it is a great time.
So
I don't know if it actually correlates over. My golf swing still sucks, but
Christmas Day 3 years ago or so when they were super popular, like when they were coming out. We bought an Oculus for the kids, and my oldest was in the living room doing a boxing, and for some reason, Alessia started to like try and clean up, and she walked into his zone, and he caught her with like an uppercut on Christmas. It was bad. It was
Is
bad.
that the year I came over? That would have been 3 years ago.
No, it would have been before that. It was our first Christmas in that house. So it must have been 4 Christmases ago.
Okay. Well, actually, I came 2, so it could have been 3. I came 2 Christmas.
It was. I think it was definitely the first Christmas in that house.
Okay. That's
And
fun.
he caught her with an uppercut, and like I was in my office and I heard it. I was like, oh man,
Brutal.
busted. Yeah, it was.
So you don't know if the Browns have it, but
We were just talking about this with one of their quarterbacks at OTAs. One of the quarterbacks was asked about it, and I can't remember now.
wasn't Joe asked about it, and Joe was like, I've seen it
A
all.
little bit, maybe it was. He was like, yeah, a little bit.
He said he's seen it all, was his basic answer, if I remember correctly.
Yeah, I mean, I think it would be more with the kids than like the younger guys. I think it would be a great resource for quarterbacks because we just talked about you can only have so many reps because these guys don't. I mean, you could have unlimited reps with an Oculus and see different coverages, different schemes.
Does AJ use it for baseball?
No.
No.
I mean, we haven't yet, not to say.
And what's the last super chat? Then I want to get back to VR.
Dragon the Abandoner says Browns have an 87 team Madden rating. Super Bowl, baby.
Yeah, we talked about that on Overtime the other day. The Madden EA developers came out and said that for the beta test, they jumble all the actual teams with the ratings, so you don't know. So the Browns will not be an 87 when the actual game comes out, because that was the 6th highest team rating in the game.
Oh, jeez.
So that is not going to be the case. Also, Steve Becker texted me that the Bonsa kid, he went to high school in Utah for his final year, but he's from Massachusetts.
Oh,
so it's
okay.
not the full Utah connection.
Okay.
But he did go to Prolific Prep in Utah. He's going to BYU on the biggest NIL deal ever. And the Utah Jazz would love to have him in the 2026 NBA Draft next year. So shout out to Steve. Back to VR, Dustin. I've played VR tennis before.
I've not. I played. One of my son's buddies had one over at the house one time, and I tried it. It was pretty cool.
It's very cool.
Yeah.
It's like to the point of Xander punching your wife. You're in the zone. You have no idea what's happening around you.
It's wild.
It is.
Yeah.
And some of the videos of watching people
Oh, it's hilarious.
in a VR world, not knowing what they're looking at, but just some of the best TikTok videos out there.
We made Bree's grandpa play Fruit Ninja, so we got 2 ninja swords, and he was running around the kitchen with it. It was very funny.
It can be dangerous. It can be
Oh
dangerous.
yeah, I've seen
but
people do like boxing videos, and they're like they're shadow boxing, you know, and then they end up hitting something.
Punch the TV
Yeah.
or
Yeah.
punch
their mom.
their mom.
Or their mom. Is that what happened?
Good old Xander.
I have
Good
not
old
seen
Xander.
that. Do you have a video of that?
No, I just said my son punched my wife.
Is there a video though?
No.
Okay.
No.
If there was, it would never see the light of day. I don't think Alessi will let that out. But we got to go to overtime. We'll see you here in 3 minutes. Peace.